from all the way from New York. How are you, Mary? Mary, quite contrary. Etienne Advocate, hello. Welcome back. You've been missed. I haven't seen you since last week, so welcome back to you. Yes. I'd be like, yeah, just haven't seen you. So welcome back to you as well. Hope you're all well. Here, guys, hang on. Let me entertain you. Hang on, I've got to go. What I've got to do when I tell everyone to do it, make sure you go and like this video. Like the video, open it so I can go into my analytics. Here we are. Monica's in the house. Hey, Monica, how are you? Hope you're well, my darling. We got Christine Fortunato, Italiano from New York. Mary Viviano and Christine Fortunato, Italianos. They're both Italiano living in New York. I can't do an Italian accent, but welcome, Christine, as always. So, plan of attack. You all know, or you should know, we're doing this Danielle Redlick trial. We're on day 4, 6 days. So I think by Wednesday we'll be done. And obviously at 4:45 today, bang, bing, bang, bosh, we go into the other trial, the Kariga family trial. We're going over there because I've got in-court access. So we've got 2 openings of the defense today to go through. So yes, that's where we're going. So we're only going to watch part 1 today. And I think she takes a stand at some point today. And then we'll finish that off tomorrow. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, we'll do a couple of hours before the Krieger trials every morning or every afternoon. And just get through it. So apologies, my enthusiasm has not been there for this trial at all. But my enthusiasm is right there for the other trial. So, whether that's good or bad. Right, let me find now. You'd think I'd be organised by now, wouldn't you? You'd think. Right, hang on. Where does that one go now? I need to get the trial video. Not that one. Don't think it's that one. No, it's not that one. It's not that one. Okay, let me go into this one. Well, that's not that one. Oh, let me go into this one. Right, let's start from start. Oh, Shane McGowan died, 65. Jesus. Oh my God. Just seen that breaking news. Right. I got so many things in front of me. I'm very hard to see here. But it doesn't matter. Right. We're going to go straight in and start it once I find it. Oops, the wrong one. Jonathan Clubson. How are you, sir? I need coffee as well. Hey, I need coffee because I saw the amount of posts that you've been posting. And I was like, what the hell? So I've not even looked at most of it yet. There's just so many there. So I was like, let's Danielle Redlick. So I appreciate you posting. I was just like, oh my God, I can't look at all this today. But I need to look at it. But I do appreciate you posting. I know the Mexi loves them. Right, Danielle Redlick, day 4. No, that's day 5. Day 4, right. Let me get it up. Phrasing. Hoi, hoi. Hoi, hoi. Right, I'll get this here. And I'll get to the exact space we're supposed to go to. Because that's the way I like it. That's the way Right, someone's going on. Right, let's pause that there then. Right, we are ready. Guys, what are you talking about now? I had a beagle in my back all night and I have to make a couple of old people yard. Oh no. Oh, jeez. We've got Cranky Jonathan today. Cranky Jonathan. Cranky Jonathan. Um, shit. Now, I've got a script, but I know Sarpi's will kill me if I don't do it. So, please like and subscribe. Um, please like and subscribe this video. And this is not just for the people in chat. This is for Replay Crew. Please make sure you've liked it. Please make sure you subscribe to it. And a lot of people have subscribed actually to the other videos this afternoon. And please hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. The second thing is, if you're not a member, please consider becoming a member. It costs as little as $3 a month, or between $3 and $5 a month. You get access to Discord and you get access to all my members only videos, the past videos and everything. So please consider doing that. Thank you very much. And Jonathan said, lol, the old people are taking it back up. I said, go, I've gone and left. It's all to me. They like my work. Yeah, they love your work, especially if it's free. Right, so here we go. Day 4. Let me find.
ICZ.
Right, I need to get a name.
OAR.
First and last name.
Sarah Zadovich.
Well,
SARAZY.
no, you don't do that to me. Sadovich. Jesus Christ. Right. Banner. I need to get Sadovich. Hang on. So Sarah. Right, now we can spell it.
Doctor, would you please state your full name for the record? Spell your first and last name.
Sarah Zadovich. SARAZYDOWICZ.
Garcia.
Thank you.
Okay,
And could you please tell the jury where you are currently employed?
I work at the District 9 and 25 Medical Examiner's Office here in Orlando.
Very good.
What type of
Governor.
education and training do you have that qualifies you for this position?
From college?
Yes.
Okay. I have a bachelor's degree in kinesiology from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I went to medical school in Kansas City, Missouri. After that, I did a 1-year clinical rotating internship at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. And then I went back to the University of Wisconsin to do my residency in anatomic and clinical pathology. I have 2 fellowships. One is in cytopathology, that's from Northwestern University.
Someone has disliked all my videos. Someone's liked it. So my like videos are at 50% today. So I'm like,
In Chicago. And then I did my forensic pathology fellowship in Tampa.
And you said that you work at the medical examiner's office. What do you actually do at the medical examiner's office?
So we're involved with the medical legal investigation of death, which means that by Florida statute or Florida law, there are certain deaths that we're required to investigate. And when we investigate a death, our goal is to determine a cause of death and a manner of death. So that's my day-to-day work.
You're an actual medical examiner, is that correct?
Yes, that's my title.
And in order to maintain the status, do you have any certifications that you must remain current on?
Yes, I have to maintain my license to practice medicine for the state of Florida. That's one that I need to keep current. And then also I have board certifications in anatomic pathology, clinical pathology, and forensic pathology. So those need to be maintained as well.
Now, could you please explain to the jury what's the difference between the cause and the manner of death?
A cause of death is either a disease or an injury that ultimately results in an individual's death. So either just a disease or an injury. That's a basic way to think of it. The manner of death is a way to categorize deaths. It's a statistical tool. So we only have 5 choices for the manner of death. So natural, suicide, homicide, accident, and undetermined. So those are the categories for manners of death.
And what information do you rely upon in your determination when you're coming up with the cause and the manner of death?
Every case is a little bit different, but not only are my examination, any tests that I might add on to that, any imaging studies, any history that I may have about the event. So all of those, it's kind of a constellation or the totality of all of those things that come together that helps me come to the determination of the cause and manner.
Could you tell the jury how long you've been employed at the Orange County Medical Examiner's Office?
Almost 10 years.
And during your career, how many autopsies have you performed?
Ballpark, close to 3,000.
Have you ever been called to testify in court?
Yes.
And have you ever testified as an expert in the field of pathology?
Yes.
Approximately how many times?
Around 50.
At this point in time, after discussing your qualifications as an expert as a pathologist, I'm going to speak to you within the field of your expertise. So, doctor, could you please tell the jury what is an autopsy?
An autopsy is also called a postmortem, or that means after death examination. So that involves a few steps. The first general step is what's called an external examination. And so that's just as it sounds, making observations about the individual externally. So eye color, body length, body weight, any unusual markings or tattoos, those types of things. And at that time, we're also looking for any external signs of diseases or injuries. After the external examination, we can do what's called the internal examination. And that means that we open the body cavities and we remove all of the organs and we dissect them. And again, as we're doing that, looking for any signs of diseases or injuries, again, to come to that conclusion for the cause of death and manner of death. In addition to the examination itself, we can add different studies on depending on the type of case. So, we may do microbiology testing if we're looking for an infection. We can look at some different electrolytes, those types of things. And it just kind of depends on the case and what we see and what we think we need in order to come to that conclusion.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention to this case today. Did you have an opportunity to become involved in the medical case number and medical examiner case number 2019-59?
Yes.
And did you actually perform the autopsy in that particular case?
Yes.
Now, when you are performing an autopsy, do you document your autopsy by taking photos?
Yes.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Let the record reflect I'm showing counsel's remark identification as states are. The witness's remark identification as states are. Do you recognize what's been marked for identification as states are?
Yes.
And how do you recognize states are?
It's a USB drive that I just reviewed some pictures from this drive.
And do those photographs obtained on this USB, do they fairly and accurately depict the photos in which you took in connection with this autopsy?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state's offers what's been marked for identification as states are into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
States R will be admitted as the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 60.
You actually did it. You actually unsubscribed and then subscribed. Thank you, Jonathan.
Along with photographs, do you sometimes produce to indicate where injuries are found during the autopsy?
Yes. So in addition to the notes that I'm taking for myself, in certain cases, we generate what's called a injury clarification diagram. And it's just a very basic rudimentary outline of the bodies. And I can just put marks on there where the injuries are that I was describing in my report.
And did you produce an injury clarification diagram in this particular case?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Let the record reflect I'm showing opposing counsel was remarked for identification as states BK. This is marked for identification as states BK. Do you recognize states BK?
Yes.
And is this the diagram that we were just discussing?
Yes.
And does this diagram fairly and accurately depict the injuries in which you observed during the autopsy?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state office was remarked for identification as states BK. Into evidence?
Any objection?
No objection.
BK is admitted as the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 61.
Permission to publish state 61.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Doctor, I mean, you see that. In this particular case, can you tell the jury who you actually performed the autopsy on?
The name is Michael Redlick. Yes.
So let's talk to and tell the jury about the injuries that you found when doing your external examination. So could you overall describe the injuries that you located on Michael's body?
Sure. So just starting up at the head, on the face, there was a incised wound, so something that's made with a sharp instrument. And then on the inside of the upper lip, this is just a drawing, so it's not showing, but it's on the inside of the upper lip, there was an abraded contusion. So a very small bruise with a little bit of an abrasion, so kind of like a scrape. Moving down onto the torso, there were some faint contusions or bruises on the chest, on the left side of the chest. And then also on the left side of the chest, kind of near where the armpit area is, was a stab wound, just right there. And then on the left arm, there were more contusions or bruises. And then also another area of contusion down on the wrist. And on the right arm, another small contusion. And then on the on the left side of the body, on the torso, right there was a superficial incised wound. And when I say superficial, I mean kind of like a scrape or a scratch. So it's a linear wound. It's very shallow. It looks like a scratch.
Well, now let's talk about each one of these with a little bit more depth. And your permission to publish what's been entered as state 60.
Yes, ma'am.
No problems, Mary. I'll put a link at the top now. Mary, quite contrary, Mary, New York. Right, let me find a link for you, Mary. Could you all hear the music I was playing just now? Like a piano thing. Keyboard, sorry. All right, let me.
My computer is loading up here so we can look at some of these pictures. Before you actually begin your external examination, do you or did you collect any samples in order to be sent away for any further analysis for FDLE, like swabs or fingernails?
Yes, so we did. We do a few standard things on cases that are either suspicious or being worked up as a homicide. So on this particular case, I did swabs of the hands and wrists, and that's for biologic material for potential testing. We also did fingernail scrapings and fingernail clippings, and then we also use pulled head hair. So those are the standard things that we collect for law enforcement agencies.
And could you please describe to the jury how you collected and how you did the swabs from Michael's hands?
So when we're doing swabs, that would be the top priority of all of those things that I just listed. And so I do the collection. I wear sterile gloves. We use sterile.
Hello, Sarah P. Good morning. Right, hang on. I'm going to try this now. Let me pin this. So if you want to go to the next stream, as in 4:45, it's pinned for you now. You should go there automatically, but it's still pinned, just in case.
Sterile cotton-tipped swabs, and I have an assistant that will help me. So I have the swabs. They'll put a few drops of sterile saline water on the swabs to kind of moisten it up, and I do one hand at a time. My standard procedure is to start by the thumb and the base of the thumb and the index finger, and then I work my way across the top of the hand over the knuckles, and then I go to the palm of the hand and get as much of that surface area as I can, and then also I come onto the wrist. And once I have that collection done, it will be placed into on its own into a rectangular box that's sealed. So I do that for each of those hands. And then once I'm done with that, then I have autopsy technicians that work with me, and they do the collection of the fingernail scrapings and the fingernail clippings and the head hair.
And so just to be clear, on Michael's hands when you did the swabs, you just didn't swab where you saw blood, right?
Yeah, right. I try to get all surfaces of the hands.
Right. Do you guys hear this? Do you hear it? I don't think you hear it, do you? Hello? Keyboard. Hear that now? Right, and or maybe this then. Damn. Okay. You can hear that. Let's play it again. Okay. Can you hear me over it? Can you still hear me okay? So if I play that and then I speak, you can still hear me. I presume so. Jonathan, this is your fault. Can you hear me over it? Hello? Happy days. Right, so that's the Zoom. So I'm going to have to do it without headphones then. Because, Jonathan, I don't know how to do it with headphones. So, you didn't teach me that, did you, Jonathan? Yeah, but I can't do it through headphones though. Hi, Kimmy.
Okay.
Please like.
So could you describe to the jury what we're looking at in photo 087?
So this is an identification photo, and we do this initially when we open the shroud or the bag, and that's to document, exactly what we see when we first open the bag, because the bag has been sealed prior to coming to the office, and so it's to document exactly what we're seeing when we first open the bag. And the placard that you see, that white, that's our internal designation. So you'll see the top where it says the case number 19, that's for the year 2019. And then where it says 00059, our cases are numbered sequentially. So that's just designating that as case number 59 for that year. And then if we know the decedent's name, then that will be put on the placard as well.
And then the date, is that the date that you did the autopsy?
Correct.
Right, so not the date that you received the body, is that correct?
Correct. Although it can be both depending on the case.
Okay, so let's look at photo 106 first. So could you describe what is this injury, and could you describe what that was to the jury?
Sure. So you're looking at the left side of the face, and we're looking really at near the eyebrow area and upper eyelid, and that's a superficial incised wound. So something that was made with a sharp object.
Okay, so this wound right here by the eye was made by a sharp object. Is that correct?
Yes.
And would a wound like this, would that have the possibility of causing a scar?
For most people, it would. Everyone heals a little bit differently, but whenever there's a break in the skin, most likely there will be a scar.
Now, right below it, is that another injury in which you found?
What do you mean by below?
Right here, sorry, where my cursor is.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of faint contusion there.
And a contusion for the jury is what?
Contusion being like a bruise.
And then could you describe to the jury what we're looking at in photo 107?
So that superficial incised wound is just a closer image with a scale in place.
Now, looking at photo 109, could you describe, because I believe that there's a few injuries on this photo. Let's first do this injury right here. Could you just describe to the jury what that is?
Sure. So you're looking at the left side of the body. It's the front of the body, and it's near the armpit, so chest armpit area. And that's a stab wound that you're seeing right there.
This stab wound, was this the only stab wound that you found?
It was the only stab wound, but there were other incised wounds.
And the stab wound, could you tell the jury, because it was a stab wound, could you determine what it was caused by?
Some sort of instrument or implement with a sharp edge.
And with a wound like this, would that cause a scar or something permanent on the body?
Most likely.
Now, at the end of the day, I know we're jumping ahead just a little bit, based on the your overall review and autopsy, is this going to be the primary wound in this case?
As far as the most lethal injury, yes.
Yeah, looking right here, can you tell the jury what we're seeing right here?
Yeah, it's a little bit faint, but there are scattered contusions or bruises on the left chest.
And for photo 110, could you describe to the jury what we're seeing?
So that's the stab wound in the chest area, but closer and with a scale.
Okay, so in photo 112, could you describe to the jury what we're seeing on the arm?
So on the arm, it is near the elbow and the inner surface of the elbow. There are again multiple contusions or bruises.
And then once again, is this right up here? Is this another view of that main injury, so that stab wound?
Yes, it's the same stab wound, just looking from a different angle. And since the arm has been pulled out, you can see it's opened up a little bit more. And that's just because of the part of the body that it's at. Once the arm is pulled away from the body, it will pull the wound open a little bit. So that's why it looks a little different.
And photo 113, could you tell the jury what we're viewing now?
Right, so this is again the left elbow, but just a little bit closer of those contusions.
So more bruise, so a closer up with the bruising on the left elbow?
Yes.
And photo 114, could you tell the jury what we're looking at?
Sure. So that's the left wrist, and there's an area of contusion. And essentially, you may or may not be able to see this, but there's a little bit of an area where there's a little bit of the skin has kind of sloughed off. That's an artifact. That part of the arm was actually lying in some blood. So because of the moisture, that will break down the skin a little bit. And so that's an artifact of the moisture.
So you're seeing this little red thing right here?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the entire bruise itself. Is this bruise right here on the arm, is this consistent with the defensive wound?
It could be.
So in photo 124, can you tell the jury what we're looking at?
So this is the upper lip, and I've kind of pulled it up. So you're looking at the inner part. So not the part that shows on the outside, but on the inner part. And so there's an area right here. So that's an abraded contusion. So it's a contusion, and in the center of that contusion or the bruise is a little abrasion, a scrape.
And then photo 125, can you tell the jury what we're looking at in 125?
Sure. So this is the lower lip. So just looking at the same area, but just on the lower lip, and there's no injuries here.
Okay, so let's go to photo 126. Could you describe to the jury what this is?
And this is the left side of the body, and so you'll see right here, that's a linear superficial incised wound. You can think of it as a scratch.
Okay, well, let me go to one more photo, then let's talk about this. So is this 127? Could you describe to the jury what this is?
So that's the same wound, just closer up. So again, superficial incised wound, which means it's just affecting the very superficial layers of skin.
So you said, now let's talk about this for a second. You said that they should consider this as a scratch. But let me ask you, doctor, could this wound have been caused by a fingernail?
Right, so I don't, a scratch meaning me with an instrument, not a scratch as if, I'm scratching myself or fingernails. This is an instrument was used to make this mark.
So a sharp instrument was used to make this wound?
Yes.
Okay.
What's pharmatube?
And before we go to this, I want to go back for just 1 second to Photo 114. Now, you said that this wound could be consistent with a defensive wound. Could you tell the jury why?
When we talk about defensive wounds, it's, if somebody is under attack, whatever means, it's a natural instinct to protect the head and the body. And so the reflex that most people have is to bring their arms upwards to fend off whatever happens to be coming towards them. And so those are the areas of the body that would be exposed. So the forearms, oftentimes, if they're up like this, that's what's going to help prevent the attack.
So all of these wounds that we've just been discussing, could you say, and I guess my question is, were they made contemporaneously with each other?
Yes,
So they all happened around the same time?
around the same time.
So at this point in time, I want to move on to your internal examination. And specifically, I'd like to talk about, let me go back to the shoulder. And let's talk about this wound for a moment. So could you describe what your internal examination revealed about that wound, which for the record is photo 110?
So the path from the skin, it goes into the skin and then the soft tissue underneath the skin, and then it went through some of the skeletal muscle. So it's called the pectoralis, or the chest muscle. It went through the muscle, and then it perforated or went through a large vein called the basilic vein, which is one of the veins that drains the blood from the upper extremity, taking it back to the heart. So it perforated that vein, and then it went in between two ribs, between the muscle between there, and it went into the left chest cavity. When it was in the left chest cavity, it pierced the upper lobe of the left lung. And some additional findings that went along with this, there was hemorrhage or bleeding in those soft tissues in the chest and near the armpit area. And then there was also a collection of blood in the left chest cavity.
So let's chat for just a second about the lung. You said that the knife penetrated the lung. Is that correct?
Yes.
So when the knife penetrates the lung, what type of an issue would an individual have when that occurs?
Well, this particular wound, even though it did pierce the lung, it didn't pierce any of the major blood vessels of the lung. There would still be bleeding from that area, but it's not like the main trunk. So there would be an issue as far as the functioning of the lung. And more importantly than that is just the fact that something penetrated into the chest cavity. So anytime there's a breach in the chest cavity, that causes problems with the actual mechanics of breathing. So the rib cage moving the way it should to help us breathe. So when there's a penetrating injury into the chest, that gets interrupted.
So an individual would have issues breathing because of the slice into the lung?
More breaching of the chest cavity. The pressure between our chest cavity and the atmosphere is different. And so that's one of the issues that can happen with the penetrating injury. Also, as I mentioned earlier, there was a collection of blood. So as the chest cavity begins to fill with blood, then it becomes harder for that lung to expand in breathing. So that also is causing an issue.
And taking the blood issue aside, with just the lung injury in and of itself, would an individual need some type of a surgery in order to, fix the lung?
It depends on which structures. And, this is in cases where I've seen similar injuries, there has been surgical repair. But it depends on the case. And I'm not a trauma surgeon, so I can't say for every case. But
so now moving on, let's talk about the major injury. You said that a vein was cut in this particular case. Is that correct?
yes.
And because the vein was cut, there was blood loss, you indicated, right?
Yes.
So could you indicate at any point in time in your internal examination, was there any blood collection in the body that you could measure?
Yeah, in the left chest cavity.
And were you able to measure how much blood, I guess, was lost and was collecting in the left chest cavity?
So in the chest cavity, I retrieved about 750 milliliters, so, close to a liter. The other areas, so for example, like in the skeletal muscle and in the soft tissue, I can't collect that, so I can't assign a number to that. All I can do is the blood that I can retrieve from cavities.
Okay.
And the same with external hemorrhage, so any blood on the scene, I can't quantify that.
And based on your examination as a whole, did you come to a conclusion of whether or not Mr. Redlick died of a heart attack?
He had heart disease, but there was no evidence of a heart attack or clogging of the vessels. There was no evidence of that.
So he didn't die of a heart attack, right?
No.
So let's go back here to this blood loss for a moment. How much how would blood loss affect an individual?
It depends on how quickly it's lost. The more quickly the blood is lost, the more quickly you'll see symptoms. Typically, they'll feel cold. The vision may begin to dim. They'll become weak, and at some point in time, they'll become incapacitated, meaning they may not be able to walk. They may not be able to communicate at all. And then from there, it would progress to unconsciousness, and without treatment, it can progress to death.
And approximately how much blood does an individual have in their body?
In general, we say about 5 liters. Now that's going to vary, of course. Bigger people are going to have a little bit more, and smaller people will have a little bit less, but around 5 liters is what we say generally.
And with an injury like this, and going to photo, because I know we chatted about it, so let's show the jury photo, the 131. Could you tell the jury what this is a photo of?
So that's the left lung, and the darker area, that's where the stab wound is.
Okay. So with an injury like this, where we have a stab wound, where the vein has been cut and an individual is losing blood, approximately how long would that individual be able to walk around before they lose consciousness?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to give a number, right? Because we can't really study this type of thing. So we have to use observational techniques. So, and everyone is different. Every scene is a little bit different. So that's pretty difficult to say.
Okay. Could you give an approximation? Because I know you can't give an exact, but because you indicated that at some point in time there'd be a loss of consciousness. So is there an average based on the studies as to when an individual might start to lose consciousness?
Not particularly with an injury like this. In penetrating injuries involving the heart, there's a little bit more information, but for something like this where, it's one of the extremities, that's a little bit more difficult. In cases that I've had that have been with similar injuries, probably 15-ish to 20 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean that person is dead at that time. It just means that they may not be able to walk or communicate. They may be at that level.
Now, you indicated that they might not be dead. So after an individual, and let's go back. So before an individual loses consciousness, would they be, as they're losing blood, would they be having issues breathing?
Yes, most likely.
And what about speaking? At some point in time, are they going to have issues speaking?
Yeah, so the progression usually goes from somebody who is able to communicate, able to speak, to maybe speaking, but not making any sense, saying nonsensical things, to making just noises and not forming any words or any sentences. That's the progression as it becomes more severe.
Now, you also mentioned that after an individual loses consciousness, that doesn't mean, so when they lose consciousness at this point in time, they're down on the ground, right?
Correct.
So they're not moving anymore.
Correct.
Now, you indicated that doesn't mean that they're necessarily dead. Could you expound on that? Does that mean that they could still be alive?
Yes.
So how long can an individual, after losing consciousness based on blood loss, still survive?
Again, that's really variable. The only data that we have are, again, when people have reported injuries involving that.
Hi, Nunia. Nunia, this is the medical examiner. So they didn't rest last night. This is the medical examiner. So hello, Nunia, and this is the medical examiner. I think the state rests after this.
Heart. And sometimes people can live up to a couple of hours. But again, those are just kind of case reports.
So in this particular case, and let me actually, before I do that, let me show you this last picture, which is 149. Are these the samples that you sent and collected with the fingernails and the swabs that were submitted to FDLE?
Yes.
Hi, Josie.
One moment, Your Honor.
So we have.
I wanted to ask about the when let me go back for just a moment because we didn't really chat about it. So when Michael came in and that first photo, he had blood on him, right?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point in time, do you clean the body during the autopsy process?
Yes.
So before you clean the body, do you have an opportunity to observe the body as he comes?
Hey, Kimmy, I did say hello to you earlier. I was like, hi, Kim. But hello again, Kim.
To you, right?
That is part of the examination, and that's actually a part of our set of pictures. The first picture that you saw was right when we opened the shroud. And then we'll do a series of pictures before we clean the body. Once we have that documented, then we clean the body and we repeat those same set of pictures, but now the body has been cleaned, and then we can focus on, injuries or other things that we're looking at.
And when you received Michael's body, he didn't have any vomit on him.
No,
So no vomit on his face or anything like that?
no.
So in this particular case, doctor, did you come to a conclusion as to the cause and the manner of death?
Cause of death was stab wound of the torso, and I classified the manner as homicide.
So I want to ask you, you said you classified the manner as homicide. Now, at the beginning, you told the jury that in the state of Florida, there's some different classifications for the manner of death, right?
Yes.
So in this particular case, how did you come to the conclusion of a homicide versus, let's say, a suicide?
Sabrina? I've not seen Sabrina. Dan, using my suggested words given to me, Josie. Thank you, Delan. Oh, no, I did say yeah, I promise. Yeah, that's fine, Monica. See, I wish I could as well. I'll see you in the next one. See you in a bit, Monica.
This is based on, information that I received from law enforcement and the detectives, and also we have investigators at our office that go to the scene and gather information. So based on the circumstances surrounding the death, that was one of the main factors for classifying it as a homicide.
No further questions, Turner.
Thank you. Ms. Conlon?
Yeah, part-timer. It's all good. You enjoy Austin, because I know you do.
Detective Ware was present for this autopsy, right?
I believe so.
And she stayed.
Because Austin's a fair bit of a drive for you from College Station. So, yeah. Monica, we'll see you soon. We'll see you in a couple of hours, Monica. We'll miss you, but we'll see you in a couple of hours.
For the whole time.
I'm not sure. I don't keep times of when people come in and come out. We have a visitor log for anyone who comes into the autopsy suite, so we know who's there when an examination is being performed, and so they put their time in, but we don't put the time out.
Well, it's common practice for police to sometimes be present for an autopsy, right?
Yes.
And they would provide you with case information,
Yes.
and it's relevant to you coming up with the manner of death.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. It depends on the case.
Let's talk about the superficial incised wound. Is that
Jonathan, it's too early to talk about balls to none here. You know what she's like.
right?
Dirty mind.
Yes.
Meaning it's a scratch.
Yes.
So if someone went to the ER, not require stitches,
I'm not sure.
but it's highly unlikely.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's a scratch, right?
Yes. Superficial.
Very shallow.
Yes.
Let's talk about this superficial incised wound here. It's superficial.
Yes.
It's a scratch.
Yes.
And it's very shallow.
Yes.
Let's talk about these contusions right here and right here. These are mainly concentrated on the left side, correct?
Yes.
And if Michael Redlick had been slaughtering someone, and someone was hitting and at this location, those could cause those type of wounds. Is that correct?
So contusions are caused by blunt force trauma. So that can mean something impacting the skin, or conversely, the skin impacting an object. I can say that they're caused by blunt force injury or blunt force trauma.
So if someone was hitting that area right here to get Michael off of them, that could cause those type of contusions.
Yes. So something impacting the skin as blunt force trauma can cause a contusion.
So those contusions are basically bruises, is that right?
Yes.
And when you conducted this autopsy, you did not see any classic defensive wounds, did you?
The one on the forearm could be consistent with. I can never definitively say, yes, this is a defensive wound. We say it can be consistent with.
Okay, so my question is, when you conducted this autopsy, you didn't see any classic defensive wounds.
Classic meaning,
At what point, what would you consider the classic defensive wounds?
so again, any of those areas that would be exposed when somebody is in a defensive position. So areas on the forearm are the most typical place. So this area of the forearm.
Did you at one time say that you did not see any classic defensive
Objection, Your Honor,
wounds?
improper impeachment.
Let me have you all approach.
I've only done jerky once, Jonathan, beef jerky once, and they were like, but that, like little pieces. They were like little pieces. They weren't long pieces. So I don't know the difference. It will not be the same. No, it'll be a wrecking machine. I'll 2x it for now. Yeah, so Jonathan, I don't know any. Yeah, Jonathan, literally, you could do whatever. I no clue what you're doing. Cool.
So my question was, did you at one point in time say that you did not observe any classic defensive wounds in this case?
I don't know.
Would it refresh your recollection if you were to take a look at a deposition?
Sure.
Problem is, it's you that runs it wild, Josie.
Can you please take a look at page 19 through 20, lines 23 to 5? And then I'm going to, when you're done look up, I'm going to give you another page. And to look up.
Okay.
And then now page 35. 6 through 15. You're done, please. Is, at one point in this time during this case, did you at any point in time say that you did not see classic defensive wounds?
Yes.
Thank you. So the cause of death in this case was one stab wound, right?
Yes.
And it was in the upper left shoulder.
Yes.
You reviewed police reports in this case?
Not police reports.
Did you have an investigator on this case?
Yes.
All right. And you relied on your investigator, is that right?
Information from our investigator and from detectives.
So your autopsy report was 11 pages long. Is that right?
Yes.
You talk about the stab wound.
Yes.
You talked about the additional injuries.
Yes.
You talk about hypertensive cardiovascular disease of the deceased.
Yes.
You talk about obesity. Is that right?
Yes.
You give a conclusion.
Yes.
You opine as to cause of death.
Yes.
You opine as to the manner of death.
Yes.
And you even include a diagram that we saw this morning.
Yes.
And you notated different contusions, superficial and size wounds, one stab wound on this diagram.
Yes.
You also had included in this autopsy report, you noticed whether or not there was tattoos on Michael Redlick.
Yes.
You also identified any clothing and valuables in this report.
Yes.
And nowhere in this report do you describe how long it takes or how Michael Redlick goes from alive to dead, do you?
That's stated in the cause of death and also my anatomic findings.
Okay. I get you have a cause of death. The cause of death is the stab wound, right?
Yes.
My question is, you don't describe in this autopsy.
Right, I just noticed. What the hell? What are all these? Team something? What's that? What the yellow t-shirts in the back? What the hell is that? Let's see if I can zoom in. Let me just have a look. What the hell are they doing? Let's see if we can see. Right, that's the most I can zoom in. I can't see it. It says team something. I don't know what it is. Right, let me go back to normal then. All right.
Report, which you describe other things, but you don't describe how Michael Redlick goes from alive all the way to dead. You don't say anything about time, do you?
That's not something that goes into an autopsy report. So we're reporting the findings that we have. And I think you're maybe asking about mechanisms. So a mechanism is not a finding. A mechanism is how that stab wound resulted in a death. So we don't discuss mechanism. We're presenting the findings that we have from the examination and the other information that we have.
So there's nothing about the mechanism, is my question.
Correct.
So you initially authored this autopsy report, the original one, January, was it 12th or 13th of 2019?
Well, so it doesn't happen at one point. So what happens after I do my examination, I dictate my report right afterwards. And then, I have to wait for any test to come back. So any toxicology or any other thing like that. Once all of those things come back, then I finalize the report. So I may edit the report, change things around, change wording, that type of thing.
Okay, so when did you finalize your initial report in this case?
This was in April.
Okay, well, didn't you author one? I'm not talking about the amended one. I'm talking about the original one that you did in this case, where you did not have the amendment. You know which one?
That date I don't remember because I only have.
So we're talking most likely in January of 2019, possibly early February of 2019. Is that correct?
I don't know the date.
Okay. We're taking a look at your autopsy report, the original one. Refresh your recollection.
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum. Oh, here they go.
Yeah, so April. I signed it on April. The date of the autopsy was January, but I signed off on the report on April.
Did you author an original one sometime in January?
I don't know what the date was. There was an amended report, which means that once I complete the report, it goes through a QA process, quality assurance, where other people review it. And so if there's any discrepancies, we do what's called an amended report, where just say, oh, this was incorrect, I'm changing it. So it's a way to document that I changed something, and then, it's all documented, what I've changed, why I've changed it, and what date I've changed it.
Okay, so you have one from April 23rd, 2019. Did you do another one on May 6th, 2019?
Yeah, that must be the amended report then.
And the reason why you had to do that is because you had corrections to make in the subsequent one. Is that correct?
Yes,
Because there have been errors that you were trying to correct.
there are errors I did correct.
Now, you talked about a little earlier about the state asked you about possible time, how long it took for Michael Redlick, how long he would have been losing blood, walking around, possibly starting to stumble or whatnot. And you testified that it could be about 15 minutes. Is that right?
Based on cases that I've seen similar to this, it's possible.
So you mentioned that there were studies, but they don't exactly hit the same injuries that Michael Redlick had, correct?
Correct.
Right. So those studies that you're referencing for your frame of reference are for items that is not applicable to this case.
The 10 to 15 minute was based on my observations from cases that I've had that have been similar. And then I also stated that there are studies that have been done, but those involve penetrating injuries of the heart. So we can't really make that jump. So again, these are observations. That's why I'm saying it could be, because we just don't have a lot of good data.
So in other words, you don't know.
I said it could be.
Right. So you don't know.
I don't know 100%, no.
And it's possible that Michael Redlick would have died within 15 minutes of the stab wound. Is that correct?
Unlikely, but I guess
But it's possible.
possible.
Did you at one point tell Detective Ware that Michael Redlick would have bled out within 5 to 6 minutes?
I don't think I would have said that.
Okay, so are you saying that you did not say it, or?
Well, I don't know I can't remember what I said in 2019, but that's not a statement that I would make. But maybe it was a misunderstanding. I don't know, but that's not something that I would say.
Michael Redlick was 6 feet tall, wasn't he?
I believe so.
Do you need to refresh your recollection with your autopsy report
He was 6'1".
before you? Oh, okay, so he was 6'1",
That was the measurement that we had, yes.
and he weighed 243 pounds.
Yes.
May I have a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you imagine if those with the yellow tops were from a school? That'd be quite cool, wouldn't it? Going from school.
Those other cases that you were talking about, as far as possibly how long it would take someone to pass away from this particular stab wound, that was based on anecdotal evidence, right?
Just my observations.
And it's not based on anything scientific.
No, just observations.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia.
Okay, Sherna.
Okay, doctor. So let's talk about these amendments that you made to your report. What were they?
I think initially on the final anatomic diagnosis, I had I had artery instead of vein. So I just corrected that. And I'm not sure of the other one. I think it might have been a grammar, but I do know that there was the one on the front page.
So did the amendment affect the cause and manner of death at all?
No.
So let's go to the defense talk to you about the defensive wounds and whether or not you saw classic defensive wounds. Could you describe to the jury about using your hands and how sometimes hands can be considered classic defensive wounds?
Particularly with sharp force injuries, the classic findings are we'll see cuts cuts or incised wounds of the hands, oftentimes between the thumb and index finger, near the bases of the finger. So that's classic for sharp force injuries.
And in this case, this is sharp force injuries, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so just to clarify, there were no injuries consistent with cuts to Michael's hands, right?
Correct.
However, the injury to the forearm, that's still consistent with the defensive wound, right?
It could be consistent with a defensive wound.
It's just not necessarily a sharp defensive wound, like a sharp injury defensive wound, right?
Yes.
So now let's go to the last thing that I just wanted to chat on briefly. Okay. So this incised wound to the head. You keep saying a scratch. Is it a scratch because it's not deep?
Yeah, it's just a way to, it's superficial. So when we think of scratch, scratch doesn't really go really deep down into the deeper tissue. So it's in the more superficial layers.
Okay, but I just want to clarify, that wound was caused by a sharp object, is that correct?
Yes,
So something consistent with a knife.
anything with a sharp edge.
So could a fingernail have caused that?
No, fingernail wounds look a little bit different. There's usually, they're crescent shaped. Sometimes there can be a little bit of loss of tissue, whereas a wound that's made with a sharp object has very clean margins. And one of the things that we can do is, open the wound and look into it. It has some different characteristics than, say, from like blunt force trauma. These are very well-defined, crisp edges, clean through not only the skin, but even the superficial layers underneath.
And then this other wound right here, the superficial incised wound right here on the left side. Defense also tried to speak about that wound. And once again, you mentioned that wound was a scratch. Is it a scratch because it's not deep?
Yes, and I think it's kind of more relatable. If I say superficial incised wound, maybe not everybody knows what that means, but if I say scratch, well, most people know, okay, that's just, pretty superficial.
So that wound was not caused by like a fingernail, right?
No,
So that wound, once again, was caused by a sharp object
yes,
consistent with a knife.
something with a sharp edge.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Doctor, you may step down. State your next witness.
Your Honor, this time the state calls Amy Jones to the stand.
Right, hang on, we should say any something. Ba-da-ba, 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 ba-da-ba. So that was the medical examiner, which we thought was a bit strange that we hadn't seen them yet, but she was there. We got one, I'm not sure, I think we've only got one more witness left. Then the rest, but we shall see. You and me, ba-ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, ba-ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba, ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba, where is this witness? Where is this witness now? I thought she was coming now, but all we'll see now. Those funny yellow t-shirts, why are they there? Okay, yellow t-shirts. Why are they there? Why are they there? Why are they there? Yellow t-shirts. Yellow t-shirts. Why are they there? I have no idea. But I hope this next witness. Oh dear, dear. Come on. I'm waiting so I can put the name down. Oh, something's happening. What's going on? What's going on?
To the jury room, and I will call you back in about 15 minutes or so. Thank you very much.
Oh.
You need to say, I saw you pop up.
Yes. Issue that we discussed
Yes.
earlier today.
Yes, ma'am.
I have found out that Dr. Azar is available tomorrow at 12 o'clock.
11 is good.
He's available 11 o'clock. time,
Where is he?
Tennessee.
Depending on what part of Tennessee. Some of it is central, some of it is eastern.
Yeah, his is central. And so but that was his availability. I don't think it would take very long. My guess is that his direct examination might take 10, 12 minutes.
Tell him he can be ready. I will need to see where we are after today and tomorrow morning. Well, definitely after today. If I'm going to be taking testimony tomorrow morning during lunch, I certainly don't want to start at 9 o'clock and expect the jury to sit from 9 until 1, or however long it will take. So let me see where we are after today. Anything else I need to?
I was just saying earlier on, love, we missed you, we've seen you, so welcome back to you. We were just saying the other day, it was like, oh, SEN's not come back. So it's lovely to see you back.
Take up. Sade, are you ready? Or do we still need to be on break for the morning?
Mr. Jones has been located, but could we have 2 more minutes?
Okay, I told him 15, so we have 15 more minutes. Just keep him up here on our floor.
Did you see the email?
And then the call proceeds.
Now,
Thank you. Sarah, do you mind catching the next witness's name, please? And who they are, and just type it in and I'll do it. I got delivery coming. So if you don't mind doing that, I can copy and paste it then. Just the name and who they are, and I'll copy and paste it to come back. Thank you.
and at this time, the state calls Andy Jones to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give?
Oh, I can do that. Hang on, I can do it.
I do affirm.
I can do this one.
Sir, would you please state your full name for the record? Spell your first and last name.
Andrian Leonard Jones, Andrian Jones, Jones.
Ms. Garcia.
And could you please tell the jury where you're employed?
I am the inmate phone system senior technician at the Orange County, Florida jail.
And how long have you been working there?
I've been working there over 21 years.
And could you please tell the jury your duties and responsibilities?
I work with the inmate phone system, making sure that it is working properly, along with the provider, the service provider contracted by the county, GTL. I make sure, again, as I said, that the system is properly recording the calls by monitoring and what have you, even down to repairing the phones themselves. If there's an issue with a phone, if a staff member or even a family member outside calls and says they were having trouble on a phone call, we'll try to make sure that everything is repaired. Also, upon request of law enforcement, we will provide recorded call information to law enforcement.
And could you please describe to the jury how the jail phone call system works?
Yes, when an inmate is booked in, they're given a 12-digit PIN number. It's made up of their 8-digit booking number and their 4-digit book time and military time. When they pick up the phone, they're prompted by the automated operator to enter that PIN. After they successfully do that, they're prompted to enter the phone number that they want to call. After they do that, the call proceeds. The person on the other end either accepts or rejects the call. If they accept the call, both parties hear a recording that says this call is subject to monitoring and recording, and then the call proceeds.
Now, when, besides the PIN number, is there any additional way in order to identify who's calling and making a phone call?
Yes, one of the things that I also have access to is the inmate management system. It says when a person was booked in, why they were booked in. It says every location they were housed in during the duration of their time. Knowing that, I know which phones they have access to at the different times in the jail. Let's see. Your question was?
So let me ask you another question. When the person, so let's say an individual makes a phone call, an inmate makes a phone call, is there a prompt like for their name so the person receiving the call knows who's calling?
There is, yes. There's an opportunity for the inmate to record their name or their moniker. They may not say their name. Maybe they're known by a nickname. And so they may say that, but that is recorded and played to the called party so that they will know who it is.
And could you please tell the members of the jury where these phones are located?
The phones are located at the Orange County, Florida jail.
And where in the actual jail are they located? Are they located in, does every inmate have a phone in their individual cell? Where are they located?
They're located in the common areas, I would call them, of the individual dorms or cells throughout the jail, depending on where this housing location is. And there are 8 housing locations in the jail. They may have 2 phones up to 8 phones. And in some areas, there may even be 10 phones available, depending on where a person is housed in those specific dorms.
So a common area, so multiple inmates have access to these group of phones. Is that correct?
Yes, this would not be the sleeping area. It would be the area where the television is and things like that, where they may want to eat their meals or tables. So it would be a common area.
Okay. So I would like you, I'm going to actually direct your attention to this case today. Did you have an opportunity in order to look up and pull any phone calls that a Danielle Redlick made?
Yes.
And is Danielle Redlick's PIN number 1900-401-21157?
It is, yes.
And so once again, that was her booking number plus when she was booked in military time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to actually pull and review some of the phone calls that that Danielle made using that PIN number?
Yes.
I'm going to actually direct your attention to 2 particular days. Did Danielle make a phone call on March 22nd of 2019 starting at 1:59 p.m.?
Yes.
And on that particular day, did she use her PIN to make that phone call?
Yes.
And did she actually use her name in the prompt?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there was a second date and phone call that I'd like to direct your, and actually, let's just do that one first. You got permission to approach?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing counsel's mark identification as E. Mark identification states E. Do you recognize states E?
I do, yes. This
And
is
how do you recognize states E?
this is a call that I provided to law enforcement. When I listened to it to verify the call, I dated it and initialed it AJ.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of that phone call?
It is, yes.
And are these calls kept and maintained within the regular course of your business?
It is, yes.
Here at this time, the state moves what's been marked for identification states E into evidence.
Any objection?
We'll renew our prior objection.
The objection is overruled. States E is the next numbered exhibit.
That's State Exhibit 62.
And did Danielle make a phone call on April 16th of 2019 starting at 10:41 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that date and time, did she use her PIN to make that phone call?
Different pin.
Did she use, on that date, she used her PIN, is that correct?
Oh, forgive me. That's a different time. Yes, she did use her pin.
Okay. And did she put her name in the prompt?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me just clarify the name of the prompt. When the inmates are using the prompt, do they do that every single time they make the phone call? Or is that the first time when they're setting things up, they put that name in?
The first call, they're prompted as a part of the initial call. The automated operator prompts them to say their name, and they have the opportunity to do that. They can not say anything, or they can say a nickname, whatever.
Okay, so pretty much when they're setting up their very first call that they're going to make,
Yeah.
that's when they have the opportunity to say their name, their nickname, whatever they want the person that they're calling to hear. Is that correct?
Yes, that's recorded, and then it's played on all subsequent calls.
Okay. And so with the call that happened on April 16th, 2019 at 10:41, because she used her PIN, it then used her name in the prompt. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Showing counsel's mark identification states F. Okay, the witness has been marked for identification states F. Do you recognize states F?
I do. This is also a jail call that I provided to law enforcement. When I listened to it to verify it, I dated it and initialed it AJ.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of that call?
It is, yes.
And are these calls kept and maintained in the regular course of your business?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, the state offers with mark for identification as states F into evidence.
Any objection?
We'll renew our prior objection.
Objections overruled. States F is admitted as the next numbered exhibit.
State Exhibit 63.
Now, Mr. Jones, I'd like to chat with you. We've been talking about inmates using their PIN numbers. Is there, and can inmates use somebody else's PIN numbers to make a phone call?
Yes, they can.
And so how does that happen?
When inmates cross paths with others, the system only needs a active PIN to work. It's not vetting per se who's entering it, not the system. But as long as an active PIN is entered, they are able to use the phone system. And often when inmates cross paths with others, if they desire to use another PIN, they can ask for it. Inmates sometimes trade for PINs. There are free calls that are given on Sundays. There's a free 5-minute call that's given to inmates, and often they quote unquote sell that for a commissary item or something. And so thus then they would share their PIN for someone else to have access to that free call. Well, once they do that, that doesn't stop the other person from continuing to use it.
Okay. Now, when you're looking and pulling jail phone calls for law enforcement, if you're looking for, a name or a PIN number, how, if anything, can you determine whether or not an inmate's using somebody else's PIN?
When I get a request for an inmate's calls, I start with their PIN number, as well as knowing the date and time that they're booked in. As I said, also I have access to the inmate management system. So I start with their PIN number, and I note or write down all of the phone numbers that are called and associated with their PIN. Knowing what cell location they're in, I also know which phones they have access to. As I search through the different calls, as I search the first phone number, I note whether all of the PIN numbers shown are this inmate that I was asked to search for. I verify whether or not it is their PIN. If I see other PIN numbers being used out of the same dorm where I know this inmate is housed or has been housed, I listen to some of the calls. I can't listen to all of them, but I'm listening for the inmate to self-identify. I'm listening for them to say their name. I'm listening for them to answer to their name. Often they have to say their name in specific instances. Their name is called for child. If they call a bondsman, they have to say their name regardless of what PIN they're using. So there's a number of things that I listen for them to self-identify. I go through the entire list of numbers that same way. And when I find calls, regardless of whether it's the inmate's PIN who I was asked to search for or a different inmate's PIN, but it was coming from the same cell, usually even serial calls. So the inmate would use their PIN on the first, I'll just pick a date, but then also on the first, out of the same cell, usually on the same phone, another PIN is used to call the same phone number. So that is the way that I am able to ascertain whether an inmate is using a different PIN.
In this particular case, did Danielle Redlick ever use a different PIN number?
Yes, she did.
And whose PIN number, and who was the inmate that PIN number belonged to?
Connie Kent.
And was the PIN number that she used, was it 32042?
Yes.
And at some point, did Connie Kent and the defendant, were they in the same cell unit?
Yes, they were.
Your Honor, at this time, could you read the instruction?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you are about to listen to an audio recording edited to eliminate irrelevant portions that would not add to your understanding of the case. The fact that the recording has been edited should not concern you in any way and must not impact the way you listen to and consider the evidence.
That's fine. So, Mr. Jones, the two pieces of evidence, State 62 and State 63, these were the two calls that Danielle made with her PIN number, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The state's going to publish Exhibit 63, the call made on April 16th, 2019 at 10:41. And Mr. Jones, as this is loading up the number, because you said that you tracked the number in which was one of the ways in which you could track the PIN number. Is that correct? When an inmate uses somebody else's PIN number, is you look at the different phone numbers that they're calling?
I do. I check the phone number.
And was the phone number that Danielle was using on that different PIN, was that the 440-502-9799?
That is correct. Yes.
And the call that we're actually listening to here, even though this is using Danielle's PIN, this call is actually to that number. Is that correct? On the one in April?
The one in April. Yes, that is correct.
Please enter your. Please enter the.
Hello, Sabrina. Welcome, Sabrina. Welcome back. I thought Kim was losing her mind. I didn't know you were here. So, hello. Do some regular ones. Oh, good. It just takes time. It just takes time. SEN. You get into it. If I could do it, anyone could do it.
The area code and phone number you are calling now. Please hold. Please wait while your call is being connected. Please hold. Hello, this is a prepaid call from Danielle. An inmate at the Orange County Corrections. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, your current balance is $24.74. This call is from a corrections facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Towing. Hello? Hi. Hey. So, are you working at internal? What's that? Yeah, there was something this happened. But why? And there are reasons and there are things that you call it. The charges are not correct. Right. Yeah, no,
Hold on, stop a second. Ms. Garcia, stop that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have the Bluetooth speaker,
Yes, Your Honor.
or are you playing it through the sound system?
No, Your Honor, through the Bluetooth
Are you
speaker.
able to can you all hear that?
No. Okay. We'll move the speaker closer, Judge.
Okay. And it also needs to be up enough so that the court reporter can hear as well. Were you able to hear? And she can't hear either.
please enter the area code and phone number you are calling now. Please hold. Please wait while your call is being connected. Please hold. Hello, this is a prepaid call from Danielle. An inmate at the Orange County Corrections. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, your current balance is $24.74. This call is from a corrections facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Towing. Hello? Hi. Hey. So, are you working at internal? Yeah, there was something happened. This didn't happen. But why? And there are reasons and there are things that if you call it, the charges are not correct. What is the truth? She's weird. Yeah, no, I don't know. Weird. Yeah, she was describing me not going to be about that. And we talked for a while. Like, it's like kind of like, weird. We don't want to talk about it, right? And because we have to do that. And, it's like, and she's like, well, you don't need to work, like, you know, and that girl was like, yeah, she went her lawn. I was like, I'm telling you, it's harder to me, you know, like, right, it's hard to force the utility profession with it. You look at people like other figures, family development, it's very, very difficult.
Now, going to what has been entered as state 62, is that to the same number or was that to a different number?
A different number. Forgive me, a different number.
I did not understand a word myself. I don't know what's going on. It's -3 here this morning. I think it's -1 now. With Emma. Emma's not here either.
Please enter the area code and phone number book. Please hold. Please wait while your call is being connected. Please hold. Hello, this is a prepaid call from Danielle. An inmate at Orange County Corrections. To accept this call, your current balance is $21.51. This call is from a corrections facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Telling. What? Hello? Hey. Hi. Yeah. Yeah, it only rings twice when you call. Yeah, like I was about to answer it last night. It was in my hand and I just thought, you know, usually it's really ring. It's probably be bumped here, I don't know. All right, here's Shady. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah, okay, fine. Hello? Hey. Hey, Mom. No, but I don't know what you want me to do. Because I don't have control over the situation or anything. You can't decide a conversation with me? It's hard to have conversations with you. Why do you phone like this? Because I can't get into a deep conversation with you. I don't know what you want me to say. It's not about what I want you to say. I just want to talk to you. I don't understand. I just want to get worried what you're feeling. I guess I am getting that. Maybe you don't really want to talk. Is that it? I don't know. Like what? I've been sitting here dying to talk to you. I mean, it's agony. And that's it. Yeah, but like you want to talk to me and then it's just like, I'm hearing about how you're doing in there and like what you just told me. I will talk about what's going on here. I know. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so you're getting depressed and talking about me out. No, I didn't say that. No, I did not say that. Those words will be coming out of my mouth. It's hard for me to talk to you over the phone when it's hard for me, Mom. I don't understand. We elaborate, but I'm just sitting here wondering, well, that's not fair. About you. If you want to say Mom's angry or something, then say that. And then maybe we can progress the conversation. No, I'm just angry with everything. I'm not angry directly. I'm angry with everything. I would imagine that that's not something that I'm not saying you're not have a right to, but just, I'm your mom. Like, I know that. And it doesn't change anything, I know. I'm not so stern, like, what do you think I want? I won't be able to talk to you. Mom, it's not the same anymore. I can't do that anymore. Why? It's just, I don't know. So we're not the same anymore? No, it's just different. I don't understand. I'm not trying to have a bad conversation with you, Mom. You gotta somehow I'm trying to have a conversation. I know it's hard in there, and I know we don't get to talk, but it's hard on me to talk sometimes. I just want to go over it because of where you are. Yes. No. I don't know what you want me to say. Why can't you it's easy to understand, but it's hard for me to talk sometimes. Like, I don't always want to talk because just like the same reason Sawyer doesn't. It makes us sad. Just because we already know you're not with us, like, no, I'm still here. I don't even know. I don't even know. Yes, I do. It's like, write me off at this point. No, stop saying those type of things. Stop putting words in my mouth and saying that. No, I didn't say that. I don't want to do this is hard. Come on. Well, I don't know what you want me to say. Stop saying that. Why are you so angry? Like, I don't see. I don't know. Oh my gosh. What are you doing? Are you doing what I hate? No, stop saying that. Oh my God, why are you saying that? Is this really happening? Why are you pushing away from this? You're not pushing me away, Mom. You're not here. I am here. I'm on the other end of the phone. 30 minutes from you. I'm dealing with the matter. Doesn't allow me to see what you could see right now. Doesn't mean I'm not fighting. I know. Well, you can't say because I'm not here. That doesn't mean that you're not. What does that mean? No. So that's your meaning. Would you rather me speak to Daddy rather me on call? We have the same conversation every time we get on the phone because you think I'm angry with you and I am angry about stuff, but I don't know what to talk about. I can't talk either as much as we talk. I just want to know the nature of what. I don't want you to like be like this with me because I don't know what to do. I just don't. Where this like anger is having conversations. I know it's a situation, however, well, you're not going to go anything. No, you want me to hand you stuff in this situation? No, I just said you're clearly not, so I don't know why I'm looking for anything other than what you're telling me. What situation? I thought you were happy. Before this, you're like, hey, Mom, everything's fine, I'm doing okay, and you know, I hope you're doing well, and now I'm thinking, well, I'm just a little script the other day, and I don't understand, like, what's happening? You answer that? Is because of why can't you imagine this kind of like psychological stuff we have to think about? Of course. Like that's to make me, I don't always want to talk because that's why. I just don't. I have to find all the stuff out about what happened. And like, I can't hear anything directly from you, so I just don't know what to say. Oh, okay. Well, I guess you didn't know because that's what they're thinking is what they're doing. What? Yeah, you just assume and believe what you've heard and say. What am I supposed to do, Mom? I don't have a story. I don't know anything. Honey, that's right. They're making that. They have to make that story. You don't know what. My thing is you get so yet. That's part of that is why you do that. That's what got here. You said, Mom, I know everything. You know you do. Yeah, I know what happened because what I heard was a lie at first. Well, you can't. I explained. And you didn't tell me. I couldn't because I knew there was a possible charges against me.
So in this last conversation, it was a different phone number, as we previously stated. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And and she's speaking with somebody called Jade, right?
correct.
Okay. And at the end, there was a conversation about what had happened. Is that true?
Objection.
Legal basis.
Approach.
Yes.
So, obviously, this is an old trial, Sabrina. We're watching as a filler. The real trial is happening in an hour and a half. Our new, very new trial. This is a trial that happened last year. There's not much left in this trial. The the state should be resting after this one. So, you know, it is what it is. There's a couple of days left. By Wednesday, this will be finished. I'm only doing like 2-3 hours each day. And then, yeah, the real trial starts at 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock UK time, 6 o'clock
Or overruled?
European.
Mr. Jones, you can answer the question.
Yes.
Home shizzle.
Yeah, I know what happened because what I heard was a lie at first. Well, you can't, I explained it. And you didn't tell me. I couldn't because I did that was possible charges right now.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Mr. Parnell?
Jones,
Yes, sir.
Full time she's been in jail, how many calls has she made?
I do not have that number.
More than two?
It is more than 2.
A lot more than two?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jones, you may step down.
Thank you.
Have a good day. State your next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state has no witnesses, additional witnesses. So therefore, may it please the court, opposing counsel, members of the jury, the people of the state of Florida rest.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have to take up an issue that's going to take me a little bit of time. So the deputy will escort you to the jury room, and I will be with you as soon as I can.
Time, the defense would move for judgment. As far as the second-degree murder charge is concerned, even in the light most favorable to the state, while the defendant may have the burden of going forward with evidence of self-defense, the burden of proving guilt
Can you
never
slow
should.
down a little bit, please?
The day before this incident, it was her dad that was upset with her mom, that her dad was visibly angry, more upset than she had seen him, that her dad was drinking, that she had to throw out his liquor bottle. Pete Diebel testified that the night of the incident, just hours before, Michael did not seem himself, was distracted, and just wanted to leave after the game. Danielle, on the other hand, was quieter than normal. That was a layperson's observation from the night of the incident and just hours before this incident occurred. This is consistent with Michael finding out Danielle was texting another man. Michael was the one who felt betrayed. Michael was the one who was angry, as confirmed by his daughter. For depraved mind, it is an act or series of acts that either one, a person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily injury to another. Here we have one fatal stab wound that was in the armpit. We have one. We do not have multiple stab wounds. 2, it's done from ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent. The emails that were entered into evidence that were from Ms. Redlick were for months or 8 months prior, have no bearing as to whether it was clear to events that occurred 8 months or months later. Michael Redlick was upset with Danielle Redlick upon discovering that she was texting another man. She was on the defensive, and by all accounts, it makes logical sense that he was the one who was angry. Itself indicates an indifference to human life. As stated previously, this was just one stab wound. As far as count 2, tampering with evidence, the statute requires that Ms. Redlick knew that a criminal trial or proceeding or an investigation by a duly constituted law enforcement agency was pending or about to be instituted. Here, there is no evidence that Ms. Redlick knew that a criminal trial proceeding was pending or about to be instituted. At the time of the offense, she did not know that an investigation was pending or about to be instituted. And evidence submitted by the state, conversations between Ms. Redlick and Detective Ware, shows that Ms. Redlick was surprised that there was an investigation pending. For these reasons, we ask the court to grant the judgment of acquittal.
Thank you. Mr. Wiggins?
Yes, Your Honor. Everything that Ms. Conlon just said as it relates to self-defense is pure speculation and does not exist within the record. The state's case admitted no evidence related to self-defense. The state's case admitted the evidence that this defendant offered, which was Michael Redlick killed himself. And so any analysis that relates to issues related to aggression or anything like that are irrelevant because this defendant never, until trial, said that she committed this act in self-defense, and at this point has not. And so the court should disregard all arguments related to evidence that's not in the record. Looking at the record evidence in the light most favorable to the state has proven second-degree murder. It has established not sufficient, competent, substantial evidence for a finder of fact to return a verdict of guilty. As it relates to, the single stab wound, the testimony from the medical examiner related to the particular injuries that she caused, not just the stab wound, but the other injuries from the sharp object constitutes serious bodily injury. Specifically, serious bodily injury means injury or physical condition that creates a substantial risk of death, serious personal disfigurement or protracted loss or impairment of function of any bodily member or organ. Testimony of the medical examiner is that scarring could result from each one of those incise wounds. In addition, she testified to the nature of the injury and how the penetration of the chest cavity along with the lung would cause significant impairment and loss of function of those particular areas of the body and organs. So there is sufficient evidence as it relates to the injury itself. As to tampering, defense counsel has just suggested that if Mr. Redlick's body was found in that house, that Ms. Redlick didn't think an investigation would follow. That is a farcical argument and should be dismissed by this court, and it should not, and you should deny the JOA.
All right, well, as to both counts 1 and 2 in the information, taking the evidence in the light most favorable to the non-moving party, which is the state in this case, the court is going to deny the judgment of acquittal. The state has presented competent, substantial evidence to support a jury's finding of guilt as to both counts. Ms. Conlon, Mr. Parnell, are you ready to proceed? At this point, it's 11:20. Do you have a witness lined up ready to go now?
We do. It would be Ms. Redlick. All of our witnesses, we have to do her first.
Okay. Then let's bring the jury back in and let's have Ms. Redlick in the jury box now.
So,
I believe the court needs to engage in a colloquy related to her exercise of right to remain silent
I will do that.
before the jury's brought in.
Thank you.
right, so this is defense witness.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes, I do. All right, Ms. Redlick, a few questions that I need to talk with or ask you, and to some topics that I need to talk with you about. My understanding is that you are going to be testifying in your own defense. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you understand that an individual has a constitutional right not to testify? And if you decide to exercise your right not to testify, we'll read an instruction to the jury that says you have exercised that right and that they are not to consider your for them to prove the case. Any questions so far?
No.
Also, you have a right to testify. And if you decide to testify, I will read an instruction to the jury where I will tell them that they need to judge your testimony with the same weight, well, not with the same weight, but in the same manner in which they judge the credibility of the other witnesses. Any questions about that?
No.
There are some things, Ms. Redlick, during the course of the trial where your attorneys have made decisions. They've made strategic decisions on who to call in the case, how to question witnesses, how to challenge different types of evidence. And they've done that based on their training and experience.
So we don't normally share other people's channels, but because SEN Advocate is actually doing an advocacy channel, we will share it because it's the benefit of others in care, or if you've got any issues, then it's a good thing to do. So we'll support this channel, but normally we only support those that are members of the channel. But I believe that SEN Advocate is doing a good thing, so we will share. So please go and subscribe to SEN Advocate.
There are, however, some parts of the litigation process that rest solely with the defendant themselves. And the right to testify is one of those issues. Now, you can listen to what your attorneys say, and I strongly advise that you do listen to what your attorneys say. They are skilled in rules of criminal procedure, rules of evidence, and they've had many trials under their belt. So you do need to listen to your attorneys, but the final decision, Mr. Redlick, is going to be yours on what you want to do with testifying. Have you had enough time to speak with your attorneys about whether you want to testify or remain silent?
Yes, I've had enough time, Your Honor.
Would you like more time? And I will give that time to you today to speak with them regarding that issue.
No, I do not.
Okay. So are you prepared at this point to make a decision on whether you want to testify in your own defense?
Yes, I will testify.
And that is your decision to testify?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone threatened or coerced you in any way to testify?
No.
Has anyone threatened you in order to get you to testify?
No.
Made you any promises, anything like that, in order to get you to testify?
No.
And are you doing this on your own free will?
I am.
And are you under the influence today of any drugs, medication, or alcohol?
No, just lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep. Do you have any kind of mental condition that would make you unable to make the best decision for yourself today?
No.
And so are you making the best decision for yourself today to testify in your own defense?
Yes.
Okay. So the jury.
Look, I appreciate you become a member, but I've not done it because of that. We've done it because what you do is a good thing at the end. So whether you're a member or not, we'll promote your channel because it's a great channel. I mean, what you do is a good thing. So so yeah, don't worry about that. But if you do want to become a member, obviously thumbs up. But yeah, thank you, SEN, and thanks for all the work you do. Thanks for all the work you do as well in your advocacy.
And we are not standing when they come in. And we will go on and get started and work until noon. So let's bring in the jury.
Would you like to swear?
Okay, thank you.
Let's have a gander on how this is going to go. Let's do da da da.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Ma'am, would you please state your full name for the record? Spell your first and last name.
Danielle Redlick, DANIELLE REDLICK.
Mr. Parnell.
I'm sorry.
Hi.
Also, yeah, she's taking the stand. Yeah, she took the stand. So the state just rested. This is the first witness for the defense. They have taken the stand. Also, Josie, you need to put the link on your podcast in here as well, so people can join it. Josie, there's, I believe it's 6th of December, the first episode for Josie and the Friends about Zachariah Anderson's coming out. Josie will post a link in a second to this. So yeah, she'll do that. So please go support on the 6th. I probably won't listen to it live, but I will listen to it obviously. You got a sneak peek up, yes. So let's post some links in, Josie, about it so that people can subscribe to the channel, because there are some people here that are new that won't have subscribed yet. So please, and in the next one as well, please put. So this is why I did it. So it is, yes. Yeah, so please join the community, press the link, and you can become a Blue Wench or a TACO member. Thanks for the update of who it is. No worries, this is a defendant, the stepdaughter / wife of the victim. Yes. So Josie, and I'm not sure who else is involved apologise, but they're doing a podcast but on YouTube about Zach and the case and stuff. So I am useless with stuff like this. So that's why Josie's got free reign to post any Zachariah links anytime. And for the podcast, she'll post it in here as well, so that we can all become, well, I'm a subscriber already, but for everybody to be subscribers, and she'll update us when things are going on about Zachariah then. So yeah, please put that in, and I know Kim, you'll follow it. I forget the name of the bloody thing, so that's why I'm useless. I'm stalling trying to find it, but Josie will put it in here. So please go support Josie and Zachariah supporters, and watch the podcast. Wrongful Pod. That's it, Wrongful Pod. Oh, you got a website? What the Hang on, you got a website? What? Do you have it on YouTube? Oh, you don't have YouTube then? So you have got YouTube. If you're like me and I don't listen to podcasts, this is a YouTube link. I got it. I pressed the YouTube one. I got it. That's my one. Share all the others, fine. It's just that's the one I wanted to make sure. I am subscribed. Hang on. Yes, I am subscribed. I'll put it on as all notifications for the Wrongful Podcast. So please go and join. I know some of you just have YouTube, so just go and join. Oh crap, something's happened. Right, let's get back to the trial.
You married to Michael Redlick?
Yes.
How long were you married to Michael?
15 years and together for 18.
You have 2 children with Michael Redlick?
I do.
What are their names?
Jaden's my daughter and Sawyer is my son.
How old are they?
Jaden's now 18 and Sawyer's 14.
You live in Winter Park
Yes.
in Orange County?
Yes.
Ms. Redlick, on January 11th, 2019, did you stab your husband?
I did. Yes.
Why?
He was suffocating me. I couldn't breathe and he had me pinned down.
Can you explain more?
I was scared and, I was just in fear for my life. He had thought he snapped and I could die.
Why were you in fear for your life? Why did you think that you could die in that circumstance?
Just how he had me pinned down and I couldn't breathe. And so just the look in his eye, his anger, and I couldn't get away.
Were you trying to get away?
I was.
You're trying to use something.
Thank you, SEN. Thank you. Welcome to the Taco Club. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Erin Hack Taco Club. I need to change it to the Erin Hack Taco Club. But thank you, SEN. It wasn't needed, but I appreciate you for it. Thank you. Thank you for the support.
Besides a weapon to get away? Do
Yes.
you have any choice but to use a weapon to get away?
No.
How many times did you stab him?
Once.
Hang on. What was done here on about? I'm not a member at the moment, Jonathan. I'll check it as soon as I can. What? What do you not a member of? Oh, Discord. Done here. Done here. Shut up. Just go and look. You don't think I would kick you out, did you? You're still in Discord, don't you? I'm not a prick. I'm not a prick, right? I understand that not everybody can afford to be a member. So anyone that's in my chat that contributes the way that you contribute, you are in Discord. You will always be in Discord, don't you? Whether you're a member or not. So don't you worry. As long as you keep contributing in my chat, then do that.
Is this the first time that your husband had ever attacked you?
No, but it was one of the worst, I'd say, scariest.
Prior instances. prior instances of physicality between yourself and your husband?
Mhm.
Are those things that you were aware of prior to January
Yeah.
11th, having experienced them yourself?
Yes.
Are those things that informed your decision or your awareness of your fear
Yes.
that you testified to on January 11th?
Yes.
Kim,
Let's talk about how we got to that point.
Okay.
When did you first meet Michael?
I think it's like 19.
I can't give you access to the members only videos because that's based on YouTube. That's nothing to do with me. I can't do that. It's out of my control. Otherwise, I would. But Discord is in my control, so you 100% got access to Discord. So don't worry about that. No,
1996. I was about 22, 23 years old.
What are the circumstances of you meeting him?
Well, I actually met him through my mother. He and I came together under kind of unique circumstances, but prior to us, he was actually dating my mother.
Was that the extent of the relationship that he had with your mother, dating?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did they go beyond dating?
Yes. They had a kind of spontaneous marriage. Yes. She had,
When did they get married?
I think that was in 97.
So was Michael your stepfather at one point?
I guess technically, however, I didn't look at him that way.
How long were they married?
Just under, well, they were only married, I think, 6 months. They were together a couple years.
So they were together for a couple of years.
Yes.
And how old were you during that time?
22, 23 years old,
What's the age difference between you and Mr. Redlick?
21 years.
So how do we go from stepdad to something else?
Well, my mother and my stepfather had split up after 20 years, and my mom met Michael, and they started dating. And she discovered shortly after they were dating that she had an aggressive stage 4 breast cancer, and she only had so long to live. And so they got married in Vegas, and within 3 to 6 months after that, she passed away. And so they had been living at home together with my 2 younger siblings. I'm the oldest of 5, actually.
What's the age difference between you and your siblings?
I think the youngest would be 13, so I was like 25 at that point.
So how much older than your sisters are you?
At least a decade, but there's 5 of us, so they fall all in between.
But you're the oldest.
Yes.
So if you can continue explaining how the relationship between you and Michael goes from step-parent to wife.
So after my mother passed, the 2 younger children were in high school, my younger brother and sister, and they were living in the home with Michael and my mother.
thank you, SEN. I really appreciate it more than you know. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you. Thank you.
And so after she passed, my younger brother went to live with my stepfather, back with him, and asked me if I wanted to move in, that he would continue to rent the home that they were renting, so that my sister could at least finish another year of high school where she was. And so I agreed. And I was working and going to school at the time. And that's kind of how things got started. We were just
What was he
friends.
doing? What was his employment at that time?
I think he was working for the Cavaliers, the Cleveland Cavaliers at that point.
Basketball franchise?
Yes, but then switched over to the Cleveland Browns.
A football franchise?
Yes,
In Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio.
correct, in Cleveland.
So did you move into the home?
I did.
How does it progress from there?
Well, I mean, we were just kind of handling the domestic duties with the kids, sort of. And I was working, and he was encouraging me professionally, and sort of became friendly, was very supportive. And, there's time of loss for both of us, and we sort of bonded. And eventually it turned into a romantic relationship. I was going to school and working part-time at one point, or at that time, and he started coming up to the place that I worked. I was a bartender at night, so he started coming up to all the shifts that I was working and just visiting with me. And after that, he started inviting me to do more things together. And we and I grew to enjoy it. And he was kind of worldly and smart. So these are new and exciting things for me. So at some point, it turned into a romantic relationship.
You said that he was encouraging you professionally. What do you mean by that?
Well, I was young, and like I said, I was going to school. He had a lot of contacts, a huge network. And I think he had introduced me to some of his contacts. And I got my first real professional job, I guess you'd say, through him. And just kind of entering the business world.
Was that in Cleveland as well?
It was in Cleveland, yes.
So we've gone from you moving back in, helping with the domestic duties, to you being at work, him coming to work while you're working and going on dates.
Yes.
And at this point, does it continue to progress into a romantic relationship?
Yes, and that was over a period of time. It didn't. We were friends, and I didn't really look at him that way. It was a couple years at that point before it became a romantic relationship.
Was he still living in Cleveland or did he ever leave?
He was living in Cleveland, yes.
At some point, did he leave Cleveland?
He did.
Did
He's,
you guys leave together?
yes. Well, no, not initially.
Tell the court how that came about.
Well, he was pretty ambitious with his career at that point. He had practiced law for 13 years and went back to school later in life to pursue his passions in sports. And so that's when he started to work for, you know, the Cleveland Browns and the Cavaliers and professional sports teams. And he was looking for other opportunities, and he was moving up in the industry pretty quickly. So there was an opportunity that came upon him to move with the Memphis Grizzlies, an NBA team in Memphis, Tennessee. And he was excited about it, and he actually got the job, and it was a big move up for him.
At the time when he got the Memphis job, were you guys living together?
We were.
Was it your siblings there as well, or was it just you and Michael?
My sister was there, my younger sister. Yes.
So when he gets the job, do you move together or does he move on his own?
He asks me to move with him, but at that point, I hadn't really disclosed to my family that we were actually seeing each other. So I wasn't entirely comfortable with it, you know, just because he had been with my mother, and it was just kind of a little bit weird. So I told him no, that I wanted to also stay back with my family. My entire family lived in Cleveland, so I wasn't willing to do that at that point.
And do you remember what year this would have been?
2000-ish?
2000.
Yes.
Okay. At some point, did that change? Did you make it to Memphis?
Yes, at that point, he was buying me plane tickets just about every weekend. And so he was flying me to Memphis and showing me around. And so I think after a year of that, one time he picked me up at the airport and he said he had his prize, and he took me to a place called Mud Island, where it's a beautiful neighborhood on the Mississippi River in Memphis. And he pulled up to a home and he went inside and he said, "I bought this for us." And it was a beautiful house, it had a pool, and it was on the river. And so from there, I went ahead and made the decision to go ahead and move to Memphis.
So you're there on a visit and he told you that he'd already bought a home for you,
Yes.
or for you together?
Right.
Okay. At this point, how was the relationship?
It was good. I mean, like I said, odd circumstances how we came together, but it was good. We enjoyed our time together.
And how did the rest of the family view this at that point?
I think the sister that was living with us, I think she took it kind of hard, which I don't blame her. I think people were a little bit shocked, but other than that, didn't have much to say about it.
So you moved to Memphis.
Yes.
You're living with Michael.
Mhm.
How do things progress from there? How's the relationship once you make it to Tennessee?
It's good. Memphis was a new southern city to me. We were enjoying our time there. I got a job in the radio industry. We were both working.
You said earlier that he was helping you, assisting you professionally. Was this a
Yes.
job that Michael had assisted in you obtaining?
Yes.
And how so?
Well, his job at the Grizzlies was he was somebody that was well connected in the community. He was to entertain sponsors and bring on that kind of partnerships. So he worked with a lot of the companies in the area, and he was able to introduce me to people. And so I was able to get a job that way.
At this point, do you have any children yet?
No.
So we're a few years in Tennessee.
Yes.
You're in the early stages while you're living in Tennessee. Was there ever any tension or physicality between you and your husband?
At times, yes.
How would that come about?
Through arguments, sometimes alcohol related, sort of thing. At times it would escalate. I started to notice that he would get physical when he was angry, very angry, or if he drank too much. A lot of manhandling kind of thing.
Can you describe to the jury what you mean by that?
Just grabbing me by the arms a lot, sort of a controlling nature, sort of dominating. At times, slam me up against the wall, kind of stuff like that.
Were there ever times when it was more than just grabbing you?
Yes.
What was the first time that you can recall something happening that's more than just grabbing you?
Well, actually, the first time would have been back in Cleveland. There was one incident. We were coming back from a concert. I had saw an ex-boyfriend at a concert, and he was accusing me of wanting to have gone to the concert with the ex, and we sort of got into an argument about it. And I remember I made an offensive comment, which I wouldn't make today. I called him. I said at least he wasn't Jewish and cheap. And he backhanded me in the face and mouth, and my mouth started bleeding and my nose started bleeding. And we were in the car at this point. And so when I got to the red light, I wanted to get out of the car, and he grabbed me and I grabbed him back, and we kind of just went back and forth in the car, and we actually got pulled over.
So that's
Very
the first time that there was some.
Yes, that was the first time
physicality.
yes.
But the relationship did not end at that point.
No, that was actually, it was just beginning. And then he explained to me that he was sensitive about those sort of comments because he had grown up with some of that kind of thing that bothered him. So I
Was
really
able to
just
move
kind of
past
dismissed
that?
it. Pardon?
Were you able to move past that incident?
Correct.
So as you get into Memphis, is there any more scenarios where situations where it becomes physical between yourself and Michael?
Yes. And one particular incident, and I remember he was coming home from work every day and he was pretty agitated. Something was really bothering him. I just remember that it was something, had to do with something with two of his bosses. And he was coming home and he was pouring a drink each night. And I was still pretty young at that point, so I grew up in a house where you eat dinner every night. And I noticed that Michael, when he would drink, he would skip dinner. And so he was doing this by the third night. I started to wonder, are you going to keep doing this? I think I'm just going to go ahead and, if you're not going to eat dinner, I'm just going to go down to the river. There's some, a city walk where they have some shops and eateries and stuff. And when I said that, he got irritated and said, "What, are you mad because I don't want to have dinner with you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, kind of at this point," because I said, "How's the wallowing working out for you?" I said something sarcastic. And I went to head to the door to leave, and he was near the door and he moved in front of the door. And I tried to shove past him. And I feel like at that point, he raises his fist and he just crossed me in the face. And I feel like, I don't know, like he took out every frustration that he had that week on me. And the next thing I remember was actually laying in his lap and he was stroking me and he was apologizing. And he was crying. And I had looked down and I had blood all over me. And he was telling me how sorry he was, that he's going to take me out to a nice dinner tomorrow. And he wanted to go ahead and take care of me, let him take care of me that night.
Did this occur in the home?
It was in the house, yes, right before I tried to leave.
Were you injured as a result of this?
Yes, and so I noticed that I had my tooth was chipped. And so I told him, I said, I need to go to the doctor, and my face was hurting. And he said, let me just take care of you tonight. We'll talk about that. And so I did. And the next day I called off work. I told him that I got into a car accident. He went into work and he came home early, and he said that he had talked to the team doctor, Dr. Azar, and that he was going to take a look at my face. And I
Objection narrative.
Was this to set up an appointment?
Yes,
And was that done?
it was.
Did you meet with the doctor?
Yeah, and I said, you told him what happened? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, he goes, and I was surprised because and he said, well, if you go to a regular or another doctor, I could possibly go to jail over this. So
Did you, for this incident that you described, did you tell anybody what had happened at that time?
no,
Did you tell the doctor how it had occurred?
no.
How come? What would make you not want to tell or not describe accurately how you had sustained injuries?
Well, he didn't ask. I was sort of prepared to tell him if he
Buying you a nice dinner and apologizing and taking care of you afterwards. Is that something that would happen when there was physical incidents between yourself and Michael?
Yes.
And how would that make you feel as that's happening after the event?
Well, after a while, it started to make me feel like, I don't know, just sort of violated, or, that it could happen again. Become fearful a little bit.
And is this prior to your daughter being born?
I believe it was.
When was your daughter born, Jaden?
Jaden was born in 2003.
So at this point, with the increased violence that's occurring and your fear that something may continue to happen, why not leave the relationship? What is your mindset is what I'm asking for not leaving?
Well, there was still a lot of good. I didn't feel like that was overpowering it. And like I said, he was apologetic, and I felt me, and I felt like it was still worth being invested.
Did you love him?
I did, yes.
And at this point, you haven't been married yet.
I'm sorry?
At this point, you guys are not married.
No.
And when did you get married?
2004.
2004.
I shit you not, Jonathan. How nice of you, and I'm so happy that our dear Nunya got it. Was that, Jonathan? You naughty boy! You shouldn't have done that. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm so happy that Nunya got it. Nunya. It's not official to Sarah P tells us, but still. Thank you, Jonathan.
In Memphis?
Nunya.
Yes.
Once you're married, once you have your daughter, how does the relationship continue?
It's actually, I would say that it was really good. Right after my daughter was born, we were both just ecstatic over our little girl, and things were going pretty well. We were kind of big fish sort of thing. I was working with a radio group, and he was the Memphis Grizzlies, and it was kind of exciting.
Did it stay that way?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't last to the point where it was, without tension problems.
So I've been born. Talk me through how it goes from happy marriage, good times, to less good times.
After a while, he was getting happy at the Grizzlies. There were some things going on. There were some changes being made. I know at one point his immediate boss left, who had been with him there just the full 8 years that we were there. And when he left, Mike was passed over for the promotion. He would kind of the natural candidates for the position, sort of acting CEO, and upset because they actually promoted a.
Thank you, Josie, as well. Look at that. And Jumpy got it. Oh. Thank you, Josie. Josie, you're way too kind. You gifted loads. You just stop gifting. You gifted loads, Josie. Thank you so much, Josie. And congratulations to Jumpy whenever she finds out about it. So thank you, Josie. You rock as well.
Chief financial officer.
Is
Instead
this
of,
something you observed?
yes, he talked about it often, a lot. He was miserable about it, actually. And that's right around when Sawyer was born,
What year was Sawyer born?
2008.
Still in Memphis at this point?
Yes.
The tension coming from work, is this leading to more arguments, more physicality?
Yes. Yes.
Leading to more drinking?
Definitely more drinking. Yeah.
What kind of things are we seeing as a result of all this?
He was agitated and just preoccupied with issues. So mean at times, less attentive, and that kind of thing.
Were there other specific instances of physicality that occurred while you were living in Tennessee?
Yes, there were times that, like I said, there was. Scaring me kind of thing.
So when you say slamming you up against the wall, can you describe that with a little bit more detail for the jury?
Just grabbing me and then pushing me up against the wall, and
Heavier than that?
at times it was heavier. He put his hand on my throat a lot. But other than that, that was pretty much the extent of it.
Putting his hand on your throat, what do you mean? Give some detail on that.
Just when I'm up against the wall, he'd have me up by my throat like this, and just yelling at me in my face. Or he'd be punching in my space,
When this is happening, what you've described is the manhandling, the controlling, the physical holding you down. How do you respond? What are you doing?
I would just leave and I would go to my sister's until he would cool down, because when he did get really angry, it did get physical.
Often?
Angry, yes. And yeah.
Would you ever fight back physically?
I say, yeah, I would at times.
How would that go? Like, what would you do?
Pushing him, I'm probably hitting him on the chest. And I think at one point I did, when he had me pinned down at one point.
My God, what's wrong with the audio? Come on. What's wrong with this video?
Do you know when that was?
I don't recall exactly when, no. I mean, it was in Memphis.
It was in Memphis.
Yes. They're in our home.
Is this usually while people are around?
Never.
And at this time, did you take any steps to leave the relationship, leave the home, anything like that?
I promise, no, I'm not. Motherfuckers. This is diabolical.
So job situation in Memphis is not going well.
And so Michael was kind of bugging him to see if he could bring him out there. And eventually an opportunity came about, and Andy said he found an opportunity for you.
He said Michael was able to locate a job. Did you guys move?
We did.
Whole family?
Yes.
And
Right, fuck this.
two.
Right, let me find something else. Let me see. Let me see if I can find one of the other ones, because that is diabolical. Come on. That's just out of this. That's just wrong, like. What are we on? Day 4, isn't it? So we are my fire, my only desire, and you. I want it that way. Tell me why, but a heartbreak. Tell me why, ain't nothing but here to say. I want it that way. Let's see if this. Okay, 2. No, it's not that far, is it? I think it's going to be something like this. I think. So we'll just have a gander. Now you might need to put the volumes up a little bit.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't last to the point where it was, without tension problems.
So after your daughter's been born, talk me through how it goes from a happy marriage, good times, to less good times.
After a while, he was getting pretty unhappy at the Grizzlies. There were some things going on. There were some changes being made. I know at one point his immediate boss left, who had been with him there pretty much the full 8 years that we were there. And when he left, Mike was passed over for the promotion. He would kind of be one of the natural candidates for the position, sort of acting CEO. And he was upset because they actually promoted a chief financial officer.
Is this something you observed?
Yes, he talked about it often, a lot. He was miserable about it, actually. And that's right around when Sawyer was born.
What year was Sawyer born?
2008.
Still in Memphis at this point?
Yes.
The tension coming from work, is this leading to more arguments, more physicality?
Yes. Yes,
Leading to more drinking?
definitely more drinking. Yeah.
What kind of things are we seeing as a result of all this?
Just he was agitated and just preoccupied with issues. So mean at times, less attentive, and that kind of thing.
Were there other specific instances of physicality that occurred while you were living in Tennessee?
Yes, there were times that, like I said, there was a lot of manhandling, kind of control things. I remember him slamming me up against the wall quite a few times. Like he would punch the wall next to my face, scaring me, kind of thing.
So when you say slamming you up against the wall, can you describe that with a little bit more detail for the jury?
Just grabbing me and then pushing me up against the wall, and but not pushing me, more slamming me into a wall, basically.
So I see you moving your arms just a little bit. Is that the sort of force that we're talking about, or is it heavier than that?
At times it was heavier. He put his hand on my throat a lot. But other than that, that was pretty much the extent of it.
Can you describe putting his hand on your throat? What do you mean? Give some detail on that.
Just when I'm up against the wall, he'd have me up by my throat like this, and just yelling at me in my face. Or he'd be punching the wall next to my face while I'm pinned up against the wall. And sometimes, yeah, there was a lot of pinning me down, a lot of manhandling kind of thing, closing into my space. You know,
When this is happening, what you've described is the manhandling, the controlling, the physical holding you down. How do you respond? What are you doing?
well, oftentimes I'm either pushing him off or trying to get away. I remember in those days in Memphis, my sister had moved to Memphis at that point, and a lot of times I would just leave and I would go to my sister's until he would cool down, because when he did get really angry, it did get physical.
Often?
If he was really angry, yes. And yeah,
Would you ever fight back physically?
I say, yeah, I would at times.
How would that go? Like, what would you do?
Pushing him, you know, I'm probably hitting him on the chest. And I think at one point I did, when he had me pinned down, at one point I did headbutt him. And I think it might even loosened a tooth, one of his teeth.
Was that able to stop him that day?
Yes.
Do you know when that was?
I don't recall exactly when, no. I mean, it was in Memphis.
It was in Memphis.
Yes.
The events that you're describing, the physical events that you're describing, where are these taking place? Like physical location, where are they taking place?
They're in our home.
Is this usually while people are around?
Never.
And at this time, did you take any steps to leave the relationship, leave the home, anything like that?
No, I didn't. Like I said, just what was occurring, I would leave the home, but no.
So short term, but not long term.
Correct.
So job situation in Memphis is not going well. At some point, did you guys leave Memphis?
Yes, we did.
What led to that?
So when his boss left, he had actually gone to the San Francisco 49ers. And so Michael was kind of bugging him to see if he could bring him out there. And eventually an opportunity came about, and Andy said, yeah, I found an opportunity for you.
You said Michael was able to locate a job in San Francisco with a football team.
So at that point, yes, they were ready to hire him in San Francisco.
Did you guys move?
We did.
Whole family?
Yes.
And do you remember what year that would have been?
I think it was 2010.
So you got the two children, yourself and Michael, move out to California?
Yes, Sawyer wasn't quite 2 years old, so yes.
Did things get better when you move out to California?
Yeah, they did actually. When we first moved to California, it was great. It was beautiful. We both loved it. We were exploring the countryside. He was working with the team, and we were going to games, and the kids were happy. So yeah, it was good.
So the relationship at that point, once you've moved to California, is going pretty well.
It is.
Did it continue that way?
No,
How do we go from going well in California to whatever comes next?
we bought our home, and shortly after we bought our home, Andy Dolich, the gentleman that had brought him on board, was let go from the 49ers. And this was fairly soon after we bought our home. And so then Michael explained to me that he was worried when he had a target on his back. I guess.
So there's new management at the top of the organization, and your husband's worried that he might not be retained when the transition takes place.
Right. And they were already kind of making that clear to him, I guess.
Were you working at this point?
No, we had been renting homes, and so I was kind of in and out of boxes, and we had just moved into a new home. So
Was this a nice home?
it was great.
How long into the stay in California did it take until the tensions with the job started to arise?
Say again?
How long are you in California before the job insecurity issues arise?
It's probably a little past a year and a half, maybe.
How do those insecurities begin to manifest themselves with your husband and with your relationship?
Well, after Andy left, I guess like the owner had put, I guess his nephew, 27-year-old nephew in charge of the team. And I guess he had a lot of different ideas for the team. So Mike's a new immediate boss. I'll never forget his name because Mike talked about him often and not in good ways. His name was Prag Marate, and he would come home.
You meaning your husband?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so your husband would come home?
Yes. Very upset. I'd never seen him so kind of beat down and just disturbed. And he would tell me about what was going on at work. And they eventually put him on probation. And I want to say that he talked often about how the guy would belittle him in meetings and
Objection relevance.
I can ask the next question to establish. So how is this I'm sorry, Judge.
I sustain the objection, so you can go on and ask the questions that you need.
So how is this affecting your relationship?
well, when he was coming home, I started to worry about him because he started drinking a lot more. I remember the kids were small and I was kind of trying to shield them from it a little bit. I actually, we could see from our family room, you could see out into our garage. And I told him that he was going to have to start going out to the garage every night if this was what he was going to be doing. And I remember watching him often out there pacing back and forth, chain smoking and drinking. And I was worried about him. And I think it was because he was losing his job and we had just bought this home. So
Is this leading to increased tensions between yourself and your husband?
somewhat, but I understood. And I was, like I said, I was worried about him and for us. So I just kind of let him do his thing and, sort of just watched after the children while he did.
Is there physicality while you guys are living in California between yourself and Michael?
Not as much violence wise, no. More distance kind of thing. And I think it was because he was preoccupied with, the situation.
So you say distance, are you talking about emotional distance between yourself and your husband?
Yes, definitely. And then just his preoccupation with, at that point, he was looking for another job.
Okay. Were you guys able to find another job? Or was he able to find
Not
another job?
immediately. It actually took quite some time. So I decided to, jump in and I said, hey, listen, I can talk to the parish. My daughter was attending a private Catholic school at that point. And I said, I can see if they can reduce the tuition and I can get a job. And so I did both those things. And ended up getting a job with fairly quickly with the San Francisco Chronicle. And so while he was at home, at that point, the 49ers did let him go. So while he was at home, I was making the trek from San Jose to San Francisco on the train each day.
What were the family finances at that point?
Well, we had no income at that point. We had a savings. And so we were kind of living off of that.
Was that creating any tension?
Yes. I think Mike was extremely nervous about, supporting his family at that point, which is why I got the job.
And at some point, did he find another job?
Eventually he did. Yeah.
Where was that?
Indiana,
Remember what city?
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, Indiana. And do you remember what year this would have been?
That would have been 2014, I think.
Tell me about the move to Indiana. How does that take place?
Well, he leaves before me. It's a good position. There's a big weight off his shoulders. But I have to stay behind to sell the house so that I can move with the kids to join him in Indiana because they wanted him to start right away.
Did the children stay with you or did they go with your husband?
No, they were with me the entire time.
So how long does this take place where it's sort of a long distance type situation?
A year plus almost before we actually sold the house. And
are you guys seeing each other much or what?
not, we are seeing each other, but not much. I mean, he would fly in when he could to visit us in California. And I think he flew us out once or twice to show us around in Indiana.
So how often would you see your husband then? Face to face.
That year, I would say probably half a dozen times, if that.
And eventually, did you and your children also go to Indianapolis?
We did, yes.
When you get there, are you living in a home, apartment? What's the situation?
We're renting a place for 6 months, and then we ended up renting another place for 6 months, and then we finally bought a home.
During this transition phase, how is the relationship between you and your husband?
It's still distant somewhat emotionally. I could see that he feels better in a lot of ways, but as far as his job goes, but I noticed other ways he was not doing well.
Can you describe that to the jury?
I didn't know what was wrong initially, but he had a couple of health issues. He was dealing with a knee problem, and he was just being distant and cranky, mean, and I didn't know why because I thought the situation had improved with the job and taken some tension off of his shoulders. So I couldn't really pinpoint it. So I finally asked him, and then he shared with me. Well, first I asked him. I said we hadn't been intimate and often at that point, and
So at the time you're talking about, you've been in Indianapolis for a while, as cold as you've described it,
Yeah.
and you're speaking to your husband about what's going on. What's the basis for the coldness?
right.
Okay, and if you can continue from there.
And he said, "Oh, you noticed?" And I said, "Well, of course, but I just thought it with everything with the job changes, And he said, "No, actually, he was seeing a doctor in California about some issues that he had, low testosterone, and like I said, he had a knee problem." And
Did you know, you said that he was seeing someone in California, a doctor in California. Did you know about it when you were living in
I
California?
didn't know. No,
So this is something you came to find out when you were living in Indiana.
right?
How old, so what year are we talking about at this point? Did you say 2012, 13?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 20. Right.
So how old would both of you have been at that point?
I think I was like 38, and he was 58, 59.
58, 59?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Now, let's stop right there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's noon. We're going to take our lunch now, an hour and a half. Just wanted to remind you not to talk about the case, do any research about the case, go to those cases that have been mentioned in the case. And I'll see you back at 1:30.
It's quite hard to listen to this, isn't it? You know. So what we'll do is, I think we'll end it there, shall we? Oh, right, they cut it off for us. So there's, hang on, two. No, let's watch a little bit more then. Let's watch a little bit more. Because there's about 3 hours left. So let's watch a bit more.
Sean Wiggins, State of Florida.
Jennifer Garcia for the state of Florida.
Andrew Parnell from Ms. Redlick, along with Catherine Conlon. Ms. Redlick's present in the courtroom on the stand.
Okay, so let's bring in the jury. I heard we have. Everyone had a great lunch. Mr. Parnell.
All right, Ms. Redlick. When we had left, we moved to Indianapolis from California, and you were telling the jury about how your husband had told you that there were some medical issues going on and that he had been seeing a doctor in California. Do you recall?
Yes.
Okay, so how do we progress from that point?
Well, at that point, I was just kind of relieved to hear what was going on with him because I asked him at that point, I said, "Is this why you've been, so mean and whatnot?" And he said, "Oh, I guess there is some resentment." And I said, "Well, what do you mean toward me?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, that I was young and that, he didn't feel invincible anymore and he thought that I might leave him over this. And at that point, I'm just glad he had been communicating with me because at least now I knew I could help.
Did you take steps to try and help?
I did. I assured him that that's not something I would leave him over. I said, "I knew you when. This is a medical thing. There's Viagra." And he said, "No, that's not working." He had been taking that for years, which I didn't know either. But I still went ahead and did some research for him. And I found a male clinic that specializes in this kind of thing. And we went
So
together.
after you found the clinic, how did it go from there? What were your guys' next steps?
Well, we went together to talk to these doctors and try and find some solutions. And we came out with a pretty good plan, I thought, anyway. They were going to give him testosterone injections to bring up his testosterone levels. And I guess there was some new groundbreaking sort of medicine that he could, I guess they were like injections that would help him get an erection that he would have to do himself.
At home?
Yes.
And did he begin doing these treatments?
He did, yes.
And did you assist in that?
I mean, no, not technically.
But you were aware of it as it was
Yes.
ongoing?
Yeah.
How did this seem to affect both him and your relationship with him, how he's treating you?
Well, I thought it was a solution. I thought that at least the physical aspect was, solved. And perhaps it was, but I think there was a mental side on his level that wasn't quite solved.
Okay, can you explain that?
Objection calls for speculation as to what was in Mr. Redlick's mind.
How is that affecting you? How is that affecting your relationship with him? Arguments you would have, things like that?
His behaviors just continued to, he wasn't the Mike that I met. His behaviors just were bizarre. I think I would liken it to, I thought it was like this kind of sophomore juvenile male type behavior where he was sort of treating me like an object. But alongside that, there was a lot of aggression and it would become hostile.
Can you explain the sophomoric stuff that you're referencing?
Vulgar comments, like I'm a piece of meat, I'm an object, I'm his property. Some of it would be, I guess he would portray that it was kind of like lust or something, but to me, it wasn't appropriate, it wasn't okay. He was getting hostile and he was actually hurting me often during these episodes.
You're saying that physically would harm you?
Yes.
Is this while you're being intimate or?
Or he's being sexually aggressive, yes. Or there were other instances where it would just come out of the blue, like perhaps I can tell things were bothering him. I can give an example. He was going to be going out of town for a work function for the week. And so he called me from work the day before and said, "I'm going to bring home some movies and dinner. We're going to spend some time together tonight." And I said, "Okay." So he brought home dinner and alcohol. And we started watching the movie and there was a love scene. And this happened often. I noticed he would get flustered and kind of start acting strange. And during this particular movie, he approached me and he was aggressive and, you know, he was hurting me. So I moved to a separate couch and I told him that that wasn't okay. And he just continued to drink through the movie and he passed out about halfway through. And I finished the movie. And at that point, I just went upstairs to bed. I turned everything off and I let him know that I was going up to bed. He was snoring. I didn't wake him up. So I went up to bed. And the next morning, he had to leave, get ready to go out of town. And he came upstairs into the bedroom. He said, "Why didn't you wake me up last night?"
So when he says that, how does it continue from there?
So I'm in my bathroom at that point and I'm brushing my teeth and we're having this conversation. And the next thing I know, something hits me in the back of the head. And I look and there's a box of tampons on the floor. And I said, "Did you just hit me with that?" And he said, "Yeah, are you calling me a PUSSY?" And I said, "No, what are you talking about?" And he said that I had left the box of tampons on his side of the sink. What was I trying to say? And this was very strange to me. And I said, "I don't know. They just happened to be there. I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't clean up the bathroom. Sorry." And I was upset. And I said, "Maybe you are acting like that, a PUSSY." And I walked away from him. And
How did he react when you walked away?
he said that he came up behind me and grabbed me from behind and started choking me. And I had never been choked that hard before by him.
You did this a second ago. Can you show the jury how, with your hands, do a
With
demonstration
his
of how
forearm,
it's-
he just came up behind me and yanked me really hard and pulled me close to his body and to the point where I couldn't breathe. And he cut off my air and basically he was choking me out. I started to pass out. I remember falling and I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, is he going to kill me? And I remember reaching up and I fell to my knees. And the next thing I know, I was sort of aware and I was looking up at him and he was just staring at me with this like surprised expression on his face. And he reached out his hand and he said, "I'm sorry." And I just crawled away from him into a corner. And I was really frightened at that point and I couldn't believe it.
Can you describe the look on his face that you just referenced during this incident?
Well, after the fact, he looked stunned and surprised at himself and remorseful at that point.
How did it go from there? Did you guys move on from that? Was there any?
Well, we moved on in the sense that we still lived in the same home and raising two kids together, but I was getting more concerned about these behaviors. They weren't improving. Alcohol was becoming a real issue. I started to drink more at that point. And I think
We're still in Indianapolis,
yes.
2012, 2013?
Yep, about that.
Okay.
And so I think it was just exasperating things. The arguments over this same issue kept repeating itself. And there were a few other, the violence increased.
How so?
Objection.
Do you have any-
Not responsive.
Sustain that.
Violence increased. Can you explain how?
He was just putting his hands on me a lot more. And I said we were both drinking, so we were exasperating our arguments, and they were escalating to physical arguments, physical altercations. And there was another time where he had a friend over, and I was unpacking some things in the basement that was long overdue for the kids. And I didn't come up and say hello that evening when typically I would. And when I did come upstairs, he asked me why I didn't come up and interact. And I said, "Well, you see, I was busy downstairs." And he said, "Well, I see you're drinking. You know, you almost polished up a bottle of wine." And I said something sarcastic. I just said, "Does that mean there's not enough room for two alcoholics in this family?" And that's when he grabbed me and this is when he pushed me up against the wall, grabbed me by the throat, and he picked up the wine bottle and he held over my head. And he said, "No wife of mine is going to be rude to company like that. You're not going to drink like this."
Was the friend still there or had he left?
No, he had left.
Was anyone present for this?
No, the kids were in bed.
Did he hit you with the wine bottle?
He didn't hit me, just grabbed me by the throat and had me pinned up against the wall.
How did that make you feel? What's your reaction to that happening?
That really scared me too. I felt like it just was getting worse. And it didn't feel good, obviously. More afraid, unsafe.
You didn't leave at this point.
No.
So this keeps happening. You've described kind of a repetition of events, tension. What's your mindset in continuing with the relationship while this is going on, or despite this going on?
Well, I mean, at that point, I was obviously concerned about these issues, but I thought to myself, I wanted to stay in the marriage. I loved him. My kids were still very young. I just thought if we could get past this issue and begin to curb drinking, we could probably be okay. And so I was encouraging myself with that. And then I sort of just distracted myself. I went and got worked on a photography license at that point and was starting to do some things for myself.
Do you eventually move to Florida?
And yes, we do eventually move to Florida.
When was that?
That would be in 2014, I think.
What was the reason for moving down to Florida?
Michael's job change. I think that we were both a little bit over the weather in Indiana, and this opportunity came about, and he discussed it with me, and he said it would be a different kind of move. It's the world of academia, a little different than what he was doing. He wasn't completely thrilled about it, I could tell, but he was willing to make the move if he thought that maybe some sunshine and warm weather would give us a boost.
This is the job at UCF. So you come down to Florida. Is this move, the whole family comes down, or is it like you had described about Indiana previously?
I think that one we made together. Yeah. Or no, he actually moved before me, but we weren't much longer later.
Okay. And did you guys move into the Temple home at that point or somewhere else?
No, again, we rented a house in the other side of Winter Park.
How long you had the rental? Do you recall?
I think it was close. I want to say close to a year.
And then did you move into the Temple home after that?
I think we had 2 rentals at that point, and then we bought the Temple home. Yes.
Were you working when you guys moved to Florida?
No, I had just I had got a photography license, but I had signed up to go back to school to get a degree, finish a degree rather.
How are the finances at that point?
I know we took a pay cut. The Indiana job paid much more. I don't think we were suffering necessarily, but we weren't living like we were at one point.
Said that maybe moving to Florida with the sunshine would help things turn around a little bit. Did that come to be?
No.
Once we get down to Florida, how does the relationship progress once you're here?
Well, the moves are always a distraction when you're a mom and you have 2 kids. It's always setting them up first with doctors and schools and all of these things. But other than that, the relationship wasn't improving intimacy-wise, or I don't think drinking-wise. And at that point, I probably had caught up to him in the drinking a little bit. I was developing a little bit of habit myself.
The medical issues and the tension arising from that is something that was still ongoing while you were in Florida?
Yes. I remember at this point, he had been receiving testosterone treatments, injections. And over time, it takes time, I guess, for that to kind of.
Objection and proper opinion.
Screen.
What would you observe when he's getting treatment for his medical issues?
Well, after a while, he started to improve physically. He was gaining some hair back and some muscle mass, and he was actually looking better than he had in a long time. But I also noticed some extremely aggressive behaviors.
Towards yourself?
Yes.
If you can expand on that, what are you seeing?
He was short-tempered. I noticed like physical things, like he'd get red veins kind of popping out of his neck, and he would look real flustered a lot and anxious, and some of that would translate into aggression.
Towards yourself?
Yes.
Can you give the jury an example of how the aggression towards yourself would play out now that we're in Florida?
Yes. More of the same, just sexually aggressive, always manhandling, approaching me in ways like that. He was still drinking heavily, and I know that at one point we started sleeping separately because of this. And he was coming into the room at night drunk and basically attacking me. He was taking my pants off, and he was, and this was becoming like a daily thing. And I don't know if he was trying to work something out with him in his own mind, but it wasn't working for me. And when I refused, he slapped me, or he'd get hostile with me. And then the next day he'd apologize.
This happened once or more than once?
It happened several times.
Sorry.
To the point where I asked him to move out. I said, this isn't going to work. The kids were noticing, we're getting older. They were noticing the fighting and hearing things at night.
Did he move out at some point?
Yes. We talked about it, and we fought about it, and we talked about it. And then he finally agreed to move out.
When was this, do you recall?
2016, I want to say, is the first time that he moved out.
How does it go from there? Do things get better, get worse, stay the same?
Stay the same, if not worse.
How so?
Well, he was still paying the bills, and I was taking care of the kids. I was going to school pretty much full time at this point, and he would just come and go when he pleased. He would come to get the mail. I would even make food for him. He would get what he needed. He was finding places to rent, like kind of in the neighborhood, 2 months at a time, 3 months at a time. We had some old neighbors. So they would let him use the house. So there was sort of these sort of setups.
Would you still see him during this time frame?
Yes.
So what year are we at now? 2016 or so?
Yeah, 2016, 2017.
Are there any instances of physical aggression that you recall during that time period between yourself and Michael?
Yeah, definitely.
Can you explain to the jury example specifics?
There was one time when I can't remember the specific argument, but, and I'm sorry, this was more 2015. This is one of the reasons that I also asked to move out in addition to the other things that were happening. But there was a particular incident where he pushed me into a dresser and I fell and cut my head on the corner. And they took me to the emergency room with the kids. And I remember lying to the kids about what happened and also to the doctors in the emergency room.
Why would you do that?
First of all, I didn't want the kids to know. And secondly, to avoid any kind of legal issues for him.
What was the injury that you had from that?
It was a pretty deep cut in my head and I had a mild concussion.
Were there any other instances of violence in this 2016, 2017 while he's out of the house?
Yes. There were quite a few. I remember once in public, he actually pushed me into a picnic table at a baseball game and followed me home. And I remember I had put up the garage door and I was standing in the garage and I was doing some things and he was very angry. He was yelling or having an argument and he was in his car. And
Where are you guys? Are you at your own home?
yes, I'm sorry, we're at our own home.
Okay. And what happens?
I've got the garage door up and I'm standing at the garage opening and he's in his car and he's just staring at me and he's got that look again, this like dead eye look where point of no return type thing. And he,
Is this the same look that you had described from the incident in Indiana?
yes,
Is this a look that you would later see
yeah,
in January of 2019?
yes.
Tell me more about the look and what you're experiencing as he has it and what it looks, just from your opinion, what you can see happening to him.
It's just like extreme rage and like I just describe it as a dead eye. He just locks in on me and it doesn't look like he's, it's like a point of no return, like a snap kind of thing.
Are you able to talk to him when this is happening?
No,
Is this something that would go on for an extended period of time
extended period of time meaning,
in the specific instance? So I don't mean over years, I mean in the event when it's happening. How long is this look that he's got going on?
I wouldn't say it's terribly long. It's not short, but it's enough to do some damage.
So what happens with the car that you were just explaining?
Well, he just accelerated and I'm seeing him and I'm looking at his face and I can't believe that he's driving the car toward me and he's going really fast and there's no sign of him stopping and he didn't stop and I jumped into the bushes to avoid it.
Did you have any injuries from that?
Just scraped up and he had pushed me into, that was the same day he pushed me into the picnic table, so nothing too bad.
At this point, is he still away from the home or has he come back in the home at this point?
Well, like I said, he's in and out, but I think at that particular time he was out of the house. And I did go to the police on that one.
So in 2017, so you see it?
Yeah.
Is it out here?
Oh, it's not on here, no.
All right, then, people. Let's call it a day. So you should get redirected straight to the other stream. If not, the next link is in the top, so you can press that and go over there. So hopefully, one way or another, you will make it over there. So I'll close this because I did say I'll be a couple of minutes because I need to put some lights on and stuff like that. But I'll be there in about a couple of minutes. So with that, we'll be back watching this again tomorrow around 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. So with that, guys, end this here and go on to the other trial. So with that, Free Zachary Anderson, thank you so much for everyone being here. Thank you for everyone sharing the stories and everything. It's brave of you to do so. I feel horrible that we have to go through all that. And yeah, let's see you on the other side. And as I say, if you don't go straight over, just go to pinned comments. It's there. So thank you to all of you. Thank you again to Josie and to, Jonathan for their free gift membership. Thank you to SEN for becoming a member as well. And yeah, well done, Jan, and well done, Nunya, for being members. So with that, free Zacharias and everybody, I'll see you in a couple of minutes.